Hey everybody, welcome back to another all-new X's for Show, your favorite media response show. You can check the show out at X's for Show. That's X's for Show on all your social. Check it out down in the banner below, provided by our producer extraordinaire. As for me, I'm Nico, and you can check me out at Nico Action. That's NicoAction, and I could not be more excited.
Why do I every episode hope that Soch will somehow disappear?
Never.
I'm TK, and you can find me at TK Elemental.
And I'm your producer, Kevo, and you can find me at KEVOREALLY. Am I not fighting Soch? Because some things just aren't worth fighting.
I get it. That's what marriage is about.
Maybe some variants are okay.
It's like the change of the seasons and the beginning and the end of our favorite seasons, is it not?
As it were, it's what's going on. We have before us an exciting episode where we're going to take a look at the season premiere of Loki, but we're also going to say goodbye to Only Murders in the Building. We're going to say goodbye to this wonderful season of Ahsoka, right? I knew I'd get there. We are going to also take a look at some of our favorite reality shows. I have a lot of opinions about UK Drag Race already. Of course I do. But we're kicking things off with Loki because Loki is high-key the thing I've been most excited about on this Marvel television schedule. But first, we always do the big question. We play the big game. We ask the hard-hitting questions. So, guys, let's play. Big question time. Fuck, marry, kill. Our big three shows today. Would you fuck, marry, or kill the Loki verse, Only Murders verse, or Ahsoka verse? Pick your character.
Oh,
I missed where we changed the question to this and not just which one do you want to be in.
Well, and so like my big question is, though, you can either pick a person or pick the universe. For me, I would marry the Only Murders verse because Only Murders is my sort of romantic listening to Michelle Ndigui walking toward to get Havanas before a musical in the fall in New York. Like Only Murders is literally how I see New York in a romantic way. But I think that the Loki verse is just, it's got to die. It's a cancer, and I would not survive it. I love it. It's it's amazing, but it's a tragedy in there. And lightsabers are sexy, so lots of Ahsoka verse sex.
I think mine track for the same reasons. The problem with both the Loki verse and the Ahsoka verse, well, no, because people keep getting murdered. Like my thing is like I could live in the Arconian, but that's looking less and less appealing to me. This is a tough one, man. I guess I'll live my superhero dreams and marry the Loki verse. I'm going to create chaos and fuck the Ahsoka verse. And unfortunately, I will just have to kill Only Murders because it's where murder happens. I gotta be on theme while I'm there.
Well, yeah, that actually was what my answer was going to involve. It's not that I have anything against the Only Murders verse, but that's what the Only Murders verse is. So I would kill the Only Murders verse just because then I would take it over and the podcast would become about that murder. I guess marry the Ahsoka verse because Ahsoka is so dependable and so stable, and Ezra's kind of hot. I hope he gets a really sexy haircut for whatever Rebels season 6 is going to be.
Some snips.
Yeah, a little snip there, and then bang Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston. But again, I need a haircut because I'm not really into the Snape hair.
All right. Well, so we've
answered. Sorry.
That's fair. Totally.
We answered the tough questions. Yep. And now we have the toughest guest with us. She always knows just what to say. And by toughest, I imagine she's going to go the furthest to the mat here for Loki.
Yeah,
not that I didn't.
Toughest.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah. She's like, strong tough, not like, ravagingly cruel. I'm going to be a little tough on the episode, but I had an amazing time with it. I gave it a good score. I just have a lot of little questions, but we can't talk about it until we bring in the person who we are most excited to have on with us. Let's welcome series contributor Tori to the stage.
Woo! Hi, fellas.
Hello.
Hello. My name's Tori Chan.
Our Lady Loki.
Yes, you can find me on the socials at SM Tori. That's Tori with an I. I have a lot of thoughts about your FMK right there, and I'm deeply shocked by all of you.
Do you want to give us yours?
Yeah, what do you got? What's yours?
Do you have it ready?
Well, and what's really funny is that I don't go to the Star Wars one, so that one's easy. We're just gonna kill off the Ahsoka verse. And
you're not the first.
I'm not the first. I won't be the last. I would marry the Only Murders verse because I'm already on a podcast. I'm already deeply involved in true crime. And quite frankly, in a building of, it's got to be at least 120 units. What, 3 people have died? 2 that live there? Like,
not great.
My high school
odds,
graduating
but
classes had worse odds than that.
Yeah,
so.
like,
exactly.
Come on.
Respect.
In New York. Those
New
are just
York?
the murders that are featured on this podcast. Other people are getting murdered all the time.
Yeah, like the Only Murders verse is our universe, just like a little
in one building.
Just ones we care about.
Exactly. So I would trade in the less than 1% possibility of me dying to live in a rent-controlled or mortgage-controlled place like the Arcadia, and I would bang the out of the Loki verse because you got to get in and then you get to get out. You don't have to stick around.
Except when you get turned inside out.
Well,
that appears to be very much just a Loki condition. I think the rest of us will be good.
I mean, if they want to turn my insides to outsides, I'm more than happy to let them do that. Those 2 fellas right there with their faces.
Hey. Word that I had bottom, ma'am. I would agree.
So I got to bring it to the show then. It's time.
What?
Loki season 2, episode 1.
Yeah.
This episode kicked off with some really exciting ideas. There were some really cool moments. For me, it came down to the fact that I love that this is just a giant middle finger to anybody that's hoping to still see threads of anything going on in early MCU or what's going on in the comics now. This is such a bold departure, and by having this be a variant of our Loki as such a defining quality, it gives Loki sort of a limitlessness in its possibilities. This first episode seemed to think that the limitlessness defined the content ratio. I felt there were just a few too many plots for me to follow, and then Sylvie pops up toward the end. It just felt manic, but man, was it worth it for every minute of it. I just I got pacing concerns, mama. But that McDonald's at the end, I'm gonna talk about how hard they are trying to create a viral moment all year long, and I bet it works.
I did not feel like it was, I felt like it was manic, but I felt like it was very focused. I felt like it was very clear. Loki is on a mission in every moment. And everything is either Loki on the mission or his main crew getting in on the mission as well. Mostly Owen Wilson. But, we introduce Ouroboros, who, incredible character. I think we all fell in love immediately.
Only wish that every fandom could have a character that just kind of comes in as like, hi, I'm here to be happiness. Do you need happiness?
Yeah.
But also has a very dark side. And I think could end up really being a problem for Loki. I think there really might be more than meets the eye there, and that was another exciting thing. I think it was played so well by Ke Huy Quan, who we fell in love with really recently in Everything Everywhere All at Once. And this was like a huge, I think, next step for somebody who hadn't really been doing an acting career. He'd been a kind of like a stunt guy and broke in with this movie that became so huge. And this is like such a perfect carryover moment. So anyway, I just love the character and I was just kind of soaking it all up. I do feel like there were a lot of beats, but then when I sat down afterwards and was like, okay, what did Loki season 1 give us? What has the Marvel Cinematic Universe given us? What's in the comics that might show up. And I agree with you. I actually think it's pretty cool to do the fuck you.
It's so good.
Even if there's stuff that I might want, I was kind of like, okay, but can we just have 30 seconds of alligator Loki? You brought him, you made him. Now I need him always.
Come on.
I had way more comic book time with him. I need him immediately.
Daddy's
But that
baby.
would have been a lot. Throwing in alligator Loki would have been insane. So it's that, for me, it's that constant balance of like, is it realistic to expect stuff from the show? And also, as you said, it does feel like there's limitless possibilities. So sometimes you're like, give me a taste of the fact that they're limitless.
I know for me, I felt that manic energy and very much was like, oh, wow, we're really like gunning this whole time. But I liked it because it sold how much Loki is not afraid, but maybe a little afraid of this Kang guy. And I think we needed that. And I think we needed that fast-paced energy because we've seen the TVA act so decisively, so quickly. They are shoot first, don't even bother with questions. It's not worth it once they're shot. Whatever. And I think I think we needed it. We needed Loki really driving this whole thing as fast as humanly possible or godly possible. And I think I actually thank you, TK, for bringing that up. I agree. I think that OB is going to be a wonderful addition, is going to provide a lot of an even next level of joy that Mobius actually brought last season. But I think he's also going to be a sticky wicket when it comes to doing things very quickly, because he seems very much someone who answers the specific question you are asking and does not get that there's nuance to the question that requires you to keep going and to figure things out and to help us with the next step. And so I think that is going to pop up in the future. But I really enjoyed it. I'm hoping that it seems like this season they're actually going to keep the promise of actually doing like time capers and going to lots and lots and lots and lots of different times. And
yeah,
I love time capers in my salad.
It was something that in the gear up to season 1, a lot of the fandom on Tumblr was under the impression we were going to get, that each episode would be a different time era, a different pastiche on our way to kind of nothing too overarching. And to get what we got was very exciting, but it wasn't what we thought we were going to get. And so I think they sort of heard that, and it looks like from all of the stills that we've seen that we should get the actual time caper part of it, as opposed to just occasionally he pops up somewhere, and by a third of the way through the episodes, there's no more time caper. It's just fighting.
We got to get to that finale quickly.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I liked it. I liked the dismantling of what you think you know about the TVA, what anyone thinks they know about the TVA. I liked a lot of it. I'm hoping we're going to get Renslayer back. I presume because we keep talking about her that we will. So I'm amped.
And Kevo, before you share what are the opinions I can't wait to hear, you had an image up a moment ago. Could you go back to the fisheye view of the ceiling with Obi on the ground? Yes. One of the things that this show works so hard to do is create so much variance and patterning. Even the ceiling tiles reflect the idea of structure, order, and variance in sequence. Mm-hmm. And that is such an important thing because your brain literally responds to those sorts of cues. Oh, Teak, you're on mute, but
it's so funny because yours and my brain are responding to things very differently in this episode. Like, I see exactly what you're saying, especially with the checkered pattern, but then everything is chaos down below in this frame. And the pattern clashes with the chaos, and it makes the whole thing chaotic. And that sort of is the essence of the TVA. There is a design in place, but there is so much chaos around the design that it is very much like a center cannot hold thing. And Loki is sort of about being that chaotic person that responds to the constantly clashing ideals that are happening and finally allows the thing to break entirely. That's like a huge part of what the show has been so far. And I think, and it's funny because OB kind of represents the embodiment of the rules. He always knows specifically what is going to happen based on what they're going to do. He knows all of the mechanics. And that's why I think he's going to be at some point almost an antagonist, because they're going to want to do stuff that he knows cannot be done or is just simply
or should
not
be
done.
done.
And he will have the keys to do it. And I guess the question really will be, are they going to make him the kind of character who finally breaks down and is like, I'm with you guys? Or is he the guy that can't allow it to happen because he knows that it blows up the universe?
Well, it seems to be what longtime Kid Riot artist and co-creator Taryn feels as well. Guys, I just got to say for 1 minute, the entire Kid Riot team is in one place for the first time in I think like 5 years.
Since the pandemic, yeah.
Ever since it's NYCC weekend, right?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, that's next
No?
week, actually. Yeah.
It's not
No.
It's not Indigenous
It's not.
weekend?
I know.
Weird.
It's not. It's
But-
weird.
Oh man, what a great surprise! Absolutely, always charmed to have the amazing Taryn and Glima with us. Definitely, always check out Taryn's unbelievable artwork because it's also my creative work too. Can't mention that enough. But Kevo, watching this episode with you was so incredible because you were somebody who came to Loki on your own over time, watching the movies. How do you feel about this episode, and what's your take on this bigger picture that we're being thrust into with the Sexy's God of Mischief?
I really recall what Tori is referring to, where on our own coverage of Loki, even in season 1, gosh, so long ago, we were talking about how there was this perception that it was going to be a little more Doctor Who-y. We saw them travel to Pompeii. We saw them travel to that Ren Fair in the 80s, and we thought we were going to get more of that, and it went in a very different direction. I don't want to get my hopes up too early in season 2, just like I got my hopes up too early in season 1, and then it wasn't what I expected. There's always something odd at play. Something that Nico noted when we were watching the premiere is the spot where Sylvie landed. Specifically, didn't you say it was Braxton?
Oh my God!
Broxton.
It's Broxton!
Oklahoma.
It's Broxton!
That
it's Broxton!
We said there's nothing from the comics. There's actually one enormous thing from the comics that could
I literally started spitting on air. It's
Yeah.
Broxton. I started literally crying mid-episode.
Well, the first thing you said was that's where the hammer fell, and I was like, the hammer fell in Texas. No, you meant
New
like
Mexico.
in the
Oh, okay.
I meant in the
They don't know where I am either.
Oh.
Little
like,
Asgard. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things in all of comics ever.
And so to hear that, I don't know if that's going to be a throwaway thing, like a few of the things that they did do in season 1, where they mentioned cities or they mentioned creators, just like throwing names in, or is that going to go somewhere? I don't want to try too hard to get my hopes up or predict or pin too many hopes on it, because the ride that we were delivered in season 1 was so fun and fascinating, and it's not the same creator even. So we know that it's not going to follow the same routes. We know that it's not necessarily the same full plan. We know that there were no reshoots. So that's an interesting fact to have.
Totally wild.
I mean, it's Olivia Wilde who came
It's a-
well in our multiverse bracketeering yesterday. So definitely check out our tie-in Loki coverage featuring Olivia Wilde.
Well,
Well, not like featuring her, but we
nailed
talk
it. Yeah,
about
no, she
her.
was not there, but there is a
You don't
picture.
Oh, you need to go find out. We could have had Olivia Wilde on yesterday. We're not saying we did, but you should look for yourself. I'm not answering.
I think wow, I had a whole thought inside my head that was going to be so intelligent, and it is gone now. So.
Well, I just want to say that one of the things that I'm so obsessed about with this idea of creating a sense of nostalgia is exactly to your point, Tori. We did all expect a little bit more zeitgeist instead of, oh, this is a universe at the end of time. Like, they really took advantage of some stuff that maybe made us feel like we missed out on some ideas. And, you know, especially with this craze of streaming shows able to tap into zeitgeist-based phenomena, and everybody is all of a sudden more into New Coke and Kate Bush than they were back in 1987, coked out of their mind reading Bret Easton Ellis.
Kate Bush just showed up on the Gay Pirates, by the way. It's a big deal.
And she still won't answer
not
any
her, yeah.
Oh, I was like, and she still won't answer any questions about running up that hill. But I really feel like this McDonald's sequence is Loki saying, if we're going to get it, we're going to get it right now. We're going to capture that magic. We're going to do Happy Meal toys. There's going to be a Loki in this for Halloween because it'll be just in time for that. Don't forget, they're getting all of these Loki things in time for Halloween for the most part. So this is a marketing ploy, and I am a Disney shill. Hi, but I kind of need to call this one out. This one is a little bit, KFC sponsoring a race car. Yeah, that guy definitely eats the bucket of chicken while driving the race car. You know what I mean?
On the one hand, of course, I see it. On the other, it is really a further moment for the show's design, creative, and artistic team to do the thing that they do, which is really recreate times and pull together a whole moment. This does not advertise the McDonald's that consumers are going to go to.
No.
And there's not even like a pop-up in Celebration. You know what I mean? Like there
was in like one city, and whenever they do that, it's like that barely counts because who went?
Yeah. So while it definitely is like, don't forget, McDonald's is a little bit of a vibe. I think it's not the powerful moment that maybe even they thought it would be. Like maybe this was really a huge attempt, but I think everybody is more just like, damn, they nailed every aspect of the, set design, but this is nothing like, they don't even have an app for this place. I'm not going there.
I only wish that she had landed in Australia in 1984 and was like, I'd love to get a job on Neighbours.
I wish that she had landed and gone to like an A&W or one of the really obscure ones.
Stewart's. Oh, for my Jersey kids.
A Sizzler. Definitely a Sizzler would have been great.
Yeah, because that's the other thing is that if they had chosen something that really doesn't exist anymore,
right,
it's
exactly.
a lot easier to throw up a pop-up. A pop-up for this would have had to be so specifically finding a McDonald's that has not been retrofitted in 40 years. That's impossible. I lived through the 90s. They were all redone.
Yeah.
And I know that
welcome to Bennigan's.
Right.
Oh, Bennigan's.
Bertucci's.
Yeah. I mean, even a Rainforest Cafe, perhaps.
Yeah.
The Wiz. I know that's not food, but like who doesn't
say
love
you
good
can't
single?
You're right. Yeah, but I think for me, knowing that McDonald's didn't approach them to be like, what's up? What if you put our stuff in? That was very much the producers going to McDonald's and saying, we're planning this thing, which means it's probably going to be a pretty large thing for them to have the gumption, even as a Disney-backed company, to walk up to the McDonald's people and get a meeting. That they wanted this, they're interested in it, they believe in this concept. So I think it's a little more than Paris Hilton eating a Carl's Jr. burger. Like I think hot. This is it is hot. I think this is a lot more specific. Yeah. I think for me, I actually think it would have been better if they had pulled an 80s thing as opposed to just creating a green, I think it's a green sauce, and putting Loki on at the bottom of the list of all the movies and things that McDonald's has appeared in.
I think that's super valid.
Well, it's the latest.
Yeah.
It is the latest. It is going chronologically.
Yeah.
But if they're the reason, I would be like, as seen in upcoming Loki, and you can also find us here.
Yeah.
You look like this.
Oh, damn. And
goodness. I want to just say, in kind of accordance with what you're saying, Tori, the thing that makes Loki so interesting is I think visually at least, is the fact that it doesn't really look like anything. Loki has a very beige tone until it has its unique elements, and that's kind of like the magic of Loki. They reset to one so that they can explode into new ideas. So it's just a green sauce. All right, that's like, this is Loki.
That's corporate promotion, though. I mean, that's really what we always are talking about.
That's my point. That was my whole original point.
I would say you could create, call it like the multiverse meal. And for, let's pick a number, for $13.99, you get a meal that was ordered by one of you on the multiverse, which means it could literally be anything.
Blue chicken nuggets. It's not hard to color food.
Well, no, I just literally mean it's a miscellaneous of their menu. It's not even like you in this timeline got a quarter pounder meal. You in this timeline got 20 chicken nuggets and an apple pie.
Surprise! This was allergic to fish.
Right. And so I understand why they can't.
This is a wild promotion idea. I love this. No, I think part of what we're missing in the world is this kind of magic. None of us are excited about, corporate synergy because it's always just a green sauce.
Right. It's always just Guy Fieri screaming at me in a TGI Fridays.
No, stop. These are good ideas. For one thing, stop giving them away. Two, this is what I want in the world. This is.
But this is the thing, is that when you have these kinds of synergies, you really do need people in the room on the corporate sellouts who goes, I have watched this before. I have an understanding of this. If you're going to make a tennis shoe, you need someone who understands tennis in the room.
Pepsi,
and it feels very much like once Marvel sewed up this deal, they were just like, as long as it's fine, it's fine.
Yeah. Make it as inoffensive as possible.
Right.
And it's even weird to do these kinds of promotions because people are going to go to McDonald's if they go to McDonald's, and people are going to watch Loki if they watch Loki. There's not really that much.
Oh, wow. I haven't thought about McDonald's in 4 years, but I really enjoy Loki. So I think
so now I got to go to McDonald's.
I'm the god of mischief too.
Call me crazy. I've done a little bit of advertising psych in those kinds of classes. I feel like this just is not it. Nobody thought the Rick and Morty Sichuan sauce thing was going to happen. Nobody was prepared for that. These things don't just you can't just throw a sauce out there and all of a sudden have 15-year-olds doing property damage.
Right. And that. It would be very different if it was something that he had eaten during season 1.
Yeah.
If we were we know what Loki orders when he goes to McDonald's.
Right. Which this could turn into, but already I think we're not going there. So yeah.
Oh my God, the McCooney God.
Yeah, Iron Man with Burger King for him coming out of the desert and being
he says, I want chicken fries. Right.
Yeah. That's something that happens. Get me a cheeseburger. Let's go. I think they didn't set themselves up for as much success with the tie-in.
Yeah.
But I have high hopes for what McDonald's looks like on this show.
Guys, literally hard not to well up with tears. Broxton, Oklahoma is by far my favorite era of Thor ever. Nothing even comes close to New Asgard in my heart. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Wait, they put New Asgard right next to the native reservations?
No, it floats above it.
Yeah.
All right.
No, but it floats above.
It's not occupying any land. It's a landmass floating.
It's just blocking the sun.
But only for Broxton City's fields, which they more than make up for the loss in crops by giving them unlimited gold.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, I have an image.
Oh, do you?
I'll have it up in a second. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, no, seriously. The JMS run of Thor.
With the Olivier Coipel art, it's so gorgeous. This is a really good era. And when they first mentioned New Asgard and it was in Scandinavia, I love that concept. Don't make that face. I knew you were going to make that face. Be positive. That's great.
It makes sense.
Right. Go with the Scando people. They are your descendants or whatever. But there was a part of me that was like, no, New Asgard goes in Oklahoma, you dummies.
Yeah. William the Brave. It's sorry. Oh, it's there.
Yeah.
Okay, so it hovers 6 feet over the ground and not.
It's more than that.
Okay.
For scale,
It's
definitely even a tall person would fit under there comfortably.
And the whole thing fits in 19 issues or so. It's a very short era of
Really?
Thor.
Is it that short?
Maybe 20 total, but JMS left in a huff after he was told that Thor had to be part of Siege, and so he just up and quit and turned in a script 2 months later to finalize the series, while Kieran Gillen had to write a fill-in run that could not acknowledge the end of the events of the JMS run that had been going for 2 years.
Kieran Gillen write a fill-in.
Wow. Where's that chant? Kieran Gillen, write a fill-in, make that character a villain.
Oh, you nailed it.
This is put it to a tune. We could catch his eye on X.
So ultimately, I think this is what we're really hoping to see. This is like the dream. If this appears on the show, even if it's like Sylvie's time, like if that ends up being like Sylvie's timeline that she goes back to and is not the one that our Loki goes to, I still think it would be super cool to see it.
I'm literally such an idiot.
What?
You're like, oh yeah, that's where the hammer drops. And I'm like, oh yeah, Thor. Who cares? And it's literally finally clicking to be like, oh, this could be Sylvie's new Asgard. Oh,
yeah, Loki.
I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But
you're not stupid.
Random...
It's a Byzantine plot situation made more Byzantine by a character, Sylvie, who is like 3 different characters. Right. So anyway, you're doing just fine. Trust me.
Get
Oh, I mean, it's a dumb thing, but
yeah, we love dumb things.
To even draw attention back to our broadcast yesterday that may or may not have had Olivia Wilde on it.
Yes.
The first thing that I thought when I saw this kid behind the counter in Loki, it made me think of yesterday, our Spider-Man bracket and Ms. Marvel's little friend. It's not connected at all.
No.
I was just like, that's just...
They are the exact same type of person. They have probably been in many an audition at the same time.
This white boy exists in so many different timelines, I guess.
Yeah. I wonder if he ever auditioned for Spider-Man.
That white boy actually looks a lot like young preteen Loki that we saw in season 1.
Yeah.
I don't think if it was the same actor, I would have seen it on Tumblr.
Yeah,
now.
no, it definitely wasn't.
So, Kebo, you had a dumb thing. Oh,
that was the dumb thing.
I'm so sorry. I was like, no, that was a really smart thing. So I thought there was a dumb thing coming. But commenting on the actual kind of consistency of the look they're going for by making that guy so generic that we're talking about how he is a generic look that occurs across the multiverse. One of the things that makes Loki for me a challenge is trying to care about these characters. Something that happens for me with a lot of this is who's a variant, who's going to just get poked by the glowing stick and then they're dead. Who's going to not show up because this, how many years is this after the first season? 3 years later. So, there's so much for me that is a little difficult as we walk into season 2 to not worry about. But with a first episode like this, I just feel so positive on the experience. More than that, though, I have some hopes. I got some hopes. I got some dreams. And I think my most significant hope is this needs to be a situation where they have to go a little bit outside of the realm of the expected. I think we need to get Loki, Agent of Asgard. And I think in Secret Wars, he is just fighting the good fight and shows up. And Thor is just fighting the good fight and shows up and is like, brother? And like Loki has to be like, look, I'm not exactly the brother you're expecting, but yeah, you changed my life and I'm a better guy now. And I'm here to fight the good fight at the end of time. Let's do this. And like, they need to make a solid departure from our expectation, because I genuinely think they've done so much incredible work that Tom Hiddleston's contributions as a hero to the Marvel Cinematic Universe are some of the most defining contributions I can think of, whether it's making the right call in several Thor movies, even an Avengers movie here or there, or the amount of work they did to develop the character across multiple episodes of last season and multiple iterations there within. I really need to see Loki go on a path that we've never seen him do in the comics, and that's to actually be a good trickster.
Yeah.
I think we are going to get that. I think your crossover dream, that's the weird place that we're in right now, where I think too many times we have all dreamed of moments like that just make sense for where the MCU is.
Just makes sense.
And sort of slot in well together, and they don't happen for whatever reason. The scheduling maybe didn't work out. The other creatives just did not have the same idea and didn't think it was necessary. But I think all of us from Iron Man 1 until She-Hulk and beyond have had a moment where we were like, but why would that person not just be here? Why would they not be doing this? Why is there no mention?
Everything for me.
Yeah. I mean, why is there's so many things where it's just like, why is there no mention of the existence of this stuff that we know exists and would affect whatever we're watching? So like what you're suggesting, I think makes total sense. And both is my expectation because they have all of the cards, they hold them all, they can play them however they want. And also isn't my expectation because I have seen them not do it so many times that I'm just like, it still feels like they're terrified to do really solid TV, their streaming service, big screen crossover, which is one of the reasons I'm so excited about Miss Marvel, because maybe that proves me wrong. Or sorry, The Marvels, not Miss Marvel.
One more time, Iman Vellani, Ms. Marvel herself's comic writing debut, Ms. Marvel, the New Mutant. Those are two of the best first issues I've ever read from an emerging voice. And, it helps that she's got the inside on what Ms. Marvel might be thinking. But the thing I would point out is she really knows how to balance the MCU with the Marvel Universe, and can't say enough positive things about her. So go check out the Marvels and prove TK right.
For me, I very much think that we are going to have an end to the Hiddleston Loki by the end of this season. I don't think we will see him beyond cameos in the future, just because he's been doing this for like 12 years-ish at this point. And I think even he is a little bit like, I can't keep looking like I did in 2012. It can only last for so long. And I think because Loki is a shapeshifter, because Loki has so much, he could be. I don't know if this will be a death of Loki. I think it will be a evolution of Loki to get us to the point that we get either Loki on the Young Avengers, we get this Agents of Asgard we keep talking about. There's so many other iterations that we can get going forward. And so for me, I really think that this could very possibly be the swan song, or leading into some form of swan song next time he can show up on a big screen.
I love that. The main thing that I think about when I think Loki is he has taken many forms in the comics for a long time, whether it's on a physical level or it's even on like the level we were talking about earlier, where maybe he'll be a good guy ultimately. And Kevo, I just want to thank you so much for putting up the multiple, info slides, whether it's
these are old. This is from our MC Loco Choco Echo Mania from back in May. Yeah.
Oh, Kevo, what a great catch. Great to see Eugene Cordero, who I would have totally forgotten to say looked so adorable here. But I just wanted to say great catch, great putting these up.
Well, and that was something that even when we were watching, I turned to at the very beginning and said, like, when he showed up, I was like, oh, it's Rutherford. And what's really funny is we would have cared about that at the time, too, but only the first season. And now we're into the fourth season and only the second season of Loki. The disparity, especially for an animated show versus a live action show, is really interesting.
For sure. We need to update Jonathan Major's line, because he's also he who remains on tape, according to the subtitles of this episode. When they play him on the recording, that was a cute little detail I liked.
Yeah. I think this is a great cast. Now, Kevo, how about you? What are your big hopes for this amazing cast, this creative team, and the season going forward?
I am always so nervous to speculate because they always do the weirdest things. Like this episode, I was expecting a lot more in a lot of ways. When we finished, I enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see more. But when Jonah said he hadn't watched it, I was like, don't rush. It's good, but you haven't like missed any amazing, exciting reveals yet. And something that is so strange about this episode structure right now is we don't know if we're going to get huge reveals every week. We don't know if it is just going to be wacky, fun hijinks like Tori was saying that we want, where it's just Loki hanging out with goats in Pompeii. We don't know. So I just want to have fun, knowing that they didn't do reshoots and that they were able to put out the story that they had planned from the beginning is not just noteworthy for Hollywood, which is, I think, part of why the showrunner keeps talking about it more than anything, to emphasize, hey, isn't that a great job for Hollywood? But for fans, it's really cool to know that there wasn't any last minute changes that had to be made or that were forced on them or things that had to be changed because of this project that was coming after. So I'm excited to see then, much like we'll talk later about with Ahsoka, where I'm so happy for Dave Filoni as a creator, where this is a thing he's wanted to do for so long. And no matter what, that's awesome. So no matter what, this is going to be really fun to see what it was that they planned from the beginning that they were able to get on screen.
I agree completely. Now, I do believe that because we have so much TV to talk about, we're nearing the end of our Loki time. Does anybody have any high-key last thoughts they want to say about Loki before we move ourselves over to some murders in the Arconia?
Are we thinking that Judge and Hunter are mother-son, secret lovers, knew each other from their personal timeline and have been keeping secrets all this time?
I think it's just going to be a weird, creepy, dommy-mommy type relationship, but I don't ever think we're going to get it defined. I was stoked that they went with Ravonna being Kang's partner in all this. That was a nice little nod to the comics, I thought. It really did not seem like that would be a thing after season 1. Like, even when they found He Who Remains, it wasn't really Kang, so I didn't really think that it would ever come to fruition in the same way that it did in the comics. But that was really fun. I'm really excited for her to come back. She's one of my favorite stupidest character designs in the 90s, with the armor and like just a bucket on her head. It's great. I love the 90s.
And speaking of the Dommy Mommy, I know you love Kate Dickie.
Yes,
who is playing her. I don't know the name of the actor, the other judge, the one that we really like, who called off the pruning, but she's in everything right now.
That's Liz Carr. Awesome. Liz Carr,
Thank
who's
you.
Also Sarah Quill on the new season of Good Omens.
Oh,
and
nice.
She's going to be in Doctor Who, and the David Tennant special's coming up next month. So she's having a David Tennant year.
She's having
for
a very
herself.
good year.
Great year to have.
And I was just going to say my last note that would probably just be that I want to see more of these two. It was part of the funnest thing in season 1, and I'd said to you the other day, one of the coolest things about the MCU is the things that they invent that are absolutely nothing like in the comics. And so I'm excited to see how these two continue to play off of each other in season 2.
Yeah, the Loki bus is strong with this one when he comes flying through and smashes and they land and do the little curl off.
I love it.
It's cute.
And it's nice to see a friendship.
Also, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they can absolutely be more than, but like, if nothing else, it's textually just nice. Like, there's they hate each other. And like, if there is more, I'm here for it. I love me some gay stuff. But, if nothing else, they've done a really nice job making these two care about each other on some level.
Yes.
Exactly.
Loki getting a friend is a big deal.
Yeah, and he just doesn't have those in any universe. So, like, it's just lovely. But alas, friend, I do believe this is the point at which we're going to have to transition ourselves from Asgard to New York City. But until we come back, to talk more Loki, which of course you are more than welcome anytime we're talking Loki. Tori, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on all the socials at SM Tori. That's Tori with an I. You can also find me on the Billy Club podcast with a couple of these fellas here. And sometimes I come on here and pretend I talk about X-Men, which is very exciting for other people, not for me. It's a little terrifying still. So anyway,
well, I think that is literally the definition of hope you survived the experience. Welcome to the X-Men. So amazing. Tori, we can't wait to have you back. Thank you so much for playing with us, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Bye, kids. Bye.
Oh, man, she's the best.
I thought she said bye gays at first, and I was like, that's fair.
All right, bye gays.
It's accurate.
Yeah. Well, from one amazing show that had its premiere this season, its premiere for the season this week, to another amazing show that wrapped up its season, Only Murders in the Building is a lot like Loki in a very specific way, in that as streaming shows, they are both designed to execute an idea. There's plenty of streaming shows that really are just designed to be a fun drop of a season, just a good time beginning to end, episodes that hit a format and execute, and that's fine. But one of the things that something like Only Murders, as well as the upcoming to be discussed Ahsoka, offer is they have to move this universe forward as a story. Now, I think one of the things that we find Loki is occasionally a victim of is having to move a bigger picture story than it is. Loki is an amazing narrative. We love Loki, but Loki is responsible for upholding the Marvel Cinematic Universe's forward trajectory when Loki is the show, right? I think a show like Ahsoka falls victim to the same thing, but the only narrative Only Murders in the Building is hoping to create is the universe of the Arconia-verse, let's call it. And part of what's challenging about that is I am sure that even though I catch what feels like 30 drop-ins an episode, I must be missing another 20 drop-ins to earlier Only Murders things, to other kind of culture that fits in the Only Murders scope. I am fascinated by how the streaming model either means, like many shows, do drops and have fun, or you have a responsibility to create an engine. And this season really pushed the engine a lot harder than season 2 did. Oh, but
I'm sorry, my dogs are barking a lot, so I'm muting. So that
well, they're beautiful queens,
and
they're
gorgeous.
They're very opinionated.
They're having a wild night. I
just realized I've done something terrible.
What?
Oh no, I've done them in the wrong order. I went to Only Murders, and it's supposed to be Ahsoka.
Oh, is Jonah coming for Only Murders?
He is. So
okay, well, we're gonna get back to this in a second.
Okay, thank you. You're the best.
It still works. It still works because we got another show that ended its season this week.
And I just ramped up so much Ahsoka. So,
yeah.
But I just realized in the script, thanks to our amazing producer, who's like, read your script, that it's Ahsoka time.
I'm doing so much. I can't read the script.
You nailed it. No, you really did. You nailed it. Breaking. We are pausing the murders. Time to space.
Pausing the murder. Discuss. I'm so tired, guys.
No, but truly, I think one of the things that's really important to note is everything I said about this still matters. These shows have the obligation of pushing the universe forward. I think with Ahsoka, though, part of what's a really interesting perspective is that Ahsoka is not beholden to a bigger picture that is devoid of the title character. I love Loki, but Loki is not their biggest concern in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at any given time. Ahsoka is a sacred creation within the Star Wars franchise. And so the idea of moving Ahsoka forward in a show called Ahsoka is so important to the show and then to the bigger picture of Star Wars. How do you guys feel about what felt in some ways like a season that was only meant to get us from point A to B and hoped to be entertaining in the middle? I thought it was fabulously entertaining in the middle.
Yeah. And, I think that's even why Ahsoka almost immediately feels forgettable. It's not insulting of Ahsoka, and it's not that I'm not enjoying Star Wars stuff, but I don't really know where this is going. I mentioned it earlier, but the joke that I keep making right now is I really enjoyed Rebels Season 5. the way that everyone has been calling it that. And I'm really glad Dave Filoni got to make it and make it in live action. But that can't have then been the end of Rebels if that's what season 5 was going to be and was meant to be. There has to be more. That is not a conclusive ending, and I don't know what everything is driving toward right now. Say what you will about the sequel trilogy. They were making a trilogy, and you knew what the structure was and when it was over, and that was that. But apart from we think there was announced a movie that's being helmed by Dave Filoni that everything is driving towards, that will probably happen, but who knows, because Hollywood is chaos right now.
I mean, I will say, I do think that we're seeing Dave Filoni carve out his piece of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
It includes Mandalorian. It includes Book of Boba Fett. It includes Ahsoka. It's really, he is stewarding a particular era and a particular set of characters. And I do think you're right insofar as it is very difficult at times to see the forest for the trees and to feel confident that in the way that you're like, yeah, the next 3 Star Wars movies, we will get a complete story, good or bad. They will conclude it with the 3rd one with some strings, left untied to go further if they want to make more movies. But like, we know what to expect at this point from the 3rd Star Wars trilogy and then the 4th Star Wars trilogy. With what Dave Filoni's doing, we don't know if he plans to do 5 seasons of Mando, 3 seasons of Ahsoka, a season of a thing we don't know about, and then a show that's actually called Rebels. And when you watch them all, that paints the whole picture for the years directly after Return of the Jedi.
But before,
right?
Yeah.
Was Thrawn involved in resurrecting the Emperor or in creating the First Order? Is that like a big secret engine that maybe we'll discover did not die when what?
Well, it's a really important question, obviously. But can we start referring to all Jedi Knights created by Dave Filoni as felonious monks?
I hate you. Show's over. This has been terrible for everybody. I'm sorry.
This is the 2nd time this week, but I'm gonna have to shut down the show early. Good night, everyone. No, I wasn't gonna go too far with it this time.
Yeah, we won't be doing that. They're great Jedi. They're fallen Jedi. They're dark Jedi.
And I think the only real true reason for my concern too that I want to say, because I'm with you and I want to see the forest and the trees and be patient because I am.
I don't think you're not being patient at all.
But people are so annoying.
Yes.
Every single post of everything everywhere that refers to her as Rey Skywalker has at least 5 immediate comments saying no, Rey Palpatine, no.
I mean, those comments are just racist.
Yes, though. It's so annoying, and people are annoying about this stuff, and they aren't patient. And so it's hard to sit and be able to enjoy with so many people. Like the people I saw screaming when they saw Jon Favreau say, we don't really have a specific plan or end game for Mandalorian. And they were like, this is why TV today is trash. And I'm like, what do you think was the long-term plan for Bonanza? Do you think that they had some sort of overarching myth arc on that series?
Gunsmoke ran 34 years. Do you think that all 34 years were helmed by the same dude with one vision? Do you really think it's Lone Wolf and Cub?
It's the opposite of what you're thinking, actually. So,
and I don't really think
wrong.
We've gotten to a point now where we have seen shows that come in with full vision. I know exactly where it begins. I know exactly where it ends. Some of them we have seen get exactly the amount of time they want too. We've seen just complete visions. We've also seen people extend because they got extensions. We've seen people cut down because they got cut down. And we have seen many series where there was no understanding that you should know where it ends because television didn't work that way until pretty recently. And it's only in the late 80s, early 90s where things like Twin Peaks start to tell us there's a start to the story. Dale Cooper comes to town.
Not to mention home video. And that being a thing where it mattered that people were going back and rewatching and caring and studying.
Exactly. And we just got so many things, Star Trek Voyager, they get to the Delta Quadrant. It can only end if they get home. So even though that was still mostly an episodic show, we had that final complete serial moment. And I think we've seen the entire gamut, and now I don't really care if I hear from a creator. I actually don't know where this is going to end, because some creators find that ending while creating their thing. Some people write not knowing where the book ends, and they find the ending while they write. TV's weird because you actually end up producing a bunch of it and making promises that you have to buy back, but it's physically possible to do, and I've seen it done really well as many times as I have seen complete visions that are totally scripted and planned out faceplant.
And I think part of where you're coming from is like, and I want to say this in a way that doesn't make you sound like one of those people, but you're coming from let's just say a media studies background, and
my whole life for years. So yeah,
same. And what it means is that, we're trying to look at this not as a Star Wars project from within the Star Wars universe. And we can talk about concerns and some difficulties that might arise. I think about that day that ABC said that they were giving Desperate Housewives 5 years. They were giving Grey's Anatomy 3 years.
Infinite.
No, I remember they were giving Desperate Housewives a total of 7, Grey's Anatomy a total of 5, and Lost a total of 7. And then they renegotiated down Lost to 6 because they wanted to tell it their way. Great decision. They renegotiated Desperate Housewives up to 9 and then had to cut it down to 8. And now Grey's Anatomy literally can just be represented by a lemon-iscuit.
Yep.
Right. But to, that end, that's when you're talking about shows that are bound by interference. But to Taryn's comment
I was ready. Yeah.
Yeah. My concern is that Filoni is very rooted into what George Lucas had envisioned for Star Wars, and we won't see him expand into a whole other universe that doesn't in some way involve a Skywalker. And, to that end, that's the other side. You can be a media studies person, or you can be a Star Wars studies person. It doesn't matter what perspective you're coming from. Your opinion is valid. This is such a dangerous experiment. Any number of things could go wrong, not just because we've been rewatching it, but I'm really thinking about the fact that Glee lost Corey Monteith in season 4, right? That is really a major turning point. That was the principal actor. The show, and this is so stupid, and I just need you all to follow me for a minute. If you want to think of Ahsoka as a woman busting down barriers, let's compare her to another woman who did that on television, Mary Tyler Moore, the first woman to use birth control on television, the first woman to do so many things. And Mary Tyler Moore had Rhoda, and Valerie Harper would go on to get her own show, Valerie. The producers then tried to treat her kind of badly. And when she left, they had to change the name of the show to Valerie's Family, and then immediately to the Hogan Family, which had been her last name. It's the same way Roseanne is now the Connors. You never know what's going to happen. So this is a really risky gambit, but I see Kevo's ready to go.
I agree with you in so many ways, especially if including Taryn's follow-up comment or that Disney is giving Dave Filoni creative duties to clean up loose ends set before the sequels. It's also what Dave Filoni loves to do. It's what he came up doing with the Clone Wars. So I think if anything, it might just be what he wanted to do or just how he works creatively. And I really, really hear and agree with Taryn's point about being concerned that this is just going to in some way involve the Skywalkers or the Skywalker saga again. I hope that it's in a way, though, that is fun and can possibly help fill some of the holes in the plot in ways that are interesting and develop characters. There's so many people we still don't know so much about. You mentioned, did Thrawn have something to do with bringing the Emperor back? And as we were watching the finale and going into it, I'm immediately thinking about these things and reading these things where, much like Hot Daddy, former Jedi Skull, talked about this presence from outside the galaxy There's a lot of stuff in new novel Star Wars canon where the Emperor talks about how he hears a voice calling him from outside the galaxy. And one of the things that I thought about is, what if Palpatine is somehow from outside the galaxy, or he's one of these people who's from Peridia, this planet, and these things that we can do to keep developing the story and developing these old villains, and maybe make some way that somehow Palpatine has returned, isn't quite the sting that we had many of us had felt at the time. I wasn't as bothered, but I never liked Palpatine. Was never that big a fan of Granddaddy Palpy. I know most of you are, and I respect it. I think he's fun, but I think his hamminess is part of where I'm like,
I thought he was great in the original Star Wars. I thought, of course, it's the only place that the prequels could go, but he was super hammy there. But we all laugh about it. Unlimited power. It's like been a meme since we were children. He's great. But it was a disappointment a bit to see him as the big reveal, as the big bad in the third one, because so much of the third one was kind of about how that whole old guard no longer matters and they can impart lessons to the younger one, but that's all they can do. And I kind of would have rather seen him in that role with a new big bad. But I think everybody's talking about the Mortis gods from Clone Wars, who also have a huge expanded canon presence. Those being the statue that Balin is standing on at the very end of the season finale is one of the 3 Mortis gods who are kind of the embodiment of the Force. Really esoteric storyline that I'll be very interested to see if that is a part, if they go into that much detail and if they go to that storyline and start to really dig into deep Star Wars lore, because that does, for all that we're talking about Dave Filoni kind of being a bit of a slave to George Lucas's vision, he is doing a lot of stuff that is purely his own vision and is really esoteric, and not in necessarily a bad way. But the other thing I think about is how this could still all be happening in the background. This is something I've talked about other times that we've talked about Star Wars stuff. This could all be happening in the background of even that's the one, the father, the son, and the daughter.
With the daughter all jacked up.
Yeah, she's gotten her head chopped off as happens from time to time. This is a storyline that could be seeded in this time, and then the fruits of it could happen in the sequel to The Last Jedi, or The Rise of Skywalker. And that's not that much time. It's not unfathomable that it would take that long for something like this to come to fruition. So
that's what I'm most hoping for. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a lot of ways in which, even though this is taking place really in a kind of no man's zone where it's tough to see how it will affect the future of Star Wars. If the future of Star Wars is Daisy Ridley playing Rey after the last time that she played Rey, temporally, that's a solid, maybe 20 to 30 years after where we are in Ahsoka. But when you think about it, that's not that long. And if we have these gods be like, it took us 20 years to get to your galaxy, but now we're here to fuck shit up after you just killed the Emperor, it's not going to seem that crazy to me. So I guess that's all to say, I can see this going somewhere that works. I can also see it being a total disaster. Realistically, of course.
All right. Well, does anybody have any final thoughts they want to give on Ahsoka?
That was my final thought.
All right. How about you, Kevo?
Nothing really extra or anything. I just want to know what's coming next. I know that we have the series Skeleton Crew coming up in the next couple of months. No release date yet as far as I'm aware, but it is a live action show. It is starring Jude Law and a bunch of ragtag kids. So it's kind of Star Wars Space Cases. And it is set around this same era as Mando and Ahsoka. So I have to assume that there will be some amount of, Taryn coming in with the save. He is saying January 2024. So hopefully, nice. I think that's a good place to drop it post-holiday. We'll see if it interacts with all this stuff. If not, It's by John Watts and the Spider-Man Homecoming people. So it'll be fun, hopefully.
That is exciting.
Yeah. They wanted to do something like fun, teen, kid, 80s movie. So
That's that's awesome. And I can't wait. But we have before that a commercial. Well, we also have a bunch of stuff before that. But we have before that. I'm just so embarrassed that I started to do Only Murders before. So so we're
Oh my
gonna
gosh. There are so many worse things in this world, Nico.
we're gonna pick
you're
up
fine.
where we started with Only Murders after the commercial. But until then, stay safe, hang in, subscribe, hit like, leave comments. We love you. So hang in and we'll be back in like 2 minutes.
We're back.
I want to talk about some bigger characters too here.
All right.
I'm really excited to do this. We've been playing a game, bracketeering, where it's basically what if we take a March Madness bracket and we go a little wacky with it, right? We have a little bit of fun. And the reason it's a little wacky is because at the end of a March Madness bracket, you still have basketball player versus basketball player. At the end of a bracketeering bracket, I'm just going to keep using that same example.
It's the best example.
It wound up the cast of Modern Family versus Batman. So it you sometimes wind up with
just absolute nonsense, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
And
man, I haven't seen these screen caps for a long while. Like I forgot how cool Ghost Rider looks back in the day.
We've got some good art in this, and yeah, a lot of it really took me back.
And so we came up with a list of characters who have never had their own formal animated series. They have had appearances on stuff, and I learned my lesson a little bit on what counts as an animated series. Listen to me well. Motion comics, you are not animated,
You're not an animated series. That's why we call you motion comics and not animated comics.
Anyway, I lost that battle. So I changed a couple of things at the last second. But we have some really cool matchups. We're going to talk about some really cool characters if you're game for it, Jason.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, then let's kick it off with two of our favorite characters in the entire world. Neither Daredevil nor Ghost Rider have ever had a proper animated series. Daredevil being my fave boy, and Ghost Rider being like TK's fave guy out of nowhere.
Suddenly, now that's a thing. I don't know how that happened.
Jason, where do you stand on the Devils? All right, so we're back, and I just need to be a big loser for 2 seconds. So anybody who knows me knows that I'm a big psycho Disney guy, and as one big psycho Disney guy to another big psycho Disney guy, seeing Taryn recognize that the thing I arranged for the commercial was a kind of like a manic Sasha's Voyage of Ima kind of remix circa 1997 kind of redux of Haunted Mansion made my entire month. So thank you, Taryn. That is the best spooky thing that happened to me this whole month. Thanks, dude. But speaking of really cool dudes who, oh no, I see you got fingers.
And I was muted. That's what happened. I wanted to make a commercial loop that would be appropriate for spooky month. So we're gonna have to come up with a nice festive loop for November and December as well.
So I'll just arrange that holiday classic, the Thanksgiving every year Thanksgiving classic. Let's have a Kiki. So speaking of really cool dudes,
Kikis.
Speaking of Kikis and real cool dudes, I am so excited to bring somebody to the show who, it's always interesting when we talk about shows that it gives different perspective. Jonah as a, ooh, he's a native New Yorker. And also as somebody who, I can see him in the green room going, as a guy who grew up with Selena Gomez, it's really different because I grew up with Steve Martin as like a dad figure. Like I saw him as an old man when I was a little kid, and now I still see him as like a really handsome. But that's just me. But Jonah brings this really interesting perspective, and I'm so excited to bring him to the show. So Jonah, do you want to come talk to us about the Arconia one more time this year? All right, Kevo, producer extraordinaire, would you please bring him to the screen?
Hello,
Hello,
for the last
everyone.
time this year, but not for the last time. So
No, we're getting another season. Also, I'd like to also note, I too really know Steve Martin as a father figure because I am personally obsessed with
Cheaper by the
The
dozen.
Dozen. Yes,
that's right.
I love
You
both. I think there's only
are.
two, but I love both of them. I also love Yours, Mine, and Our, which is a Nickelodeon spin-off, not spin-off, Nickelodeon's version to try to cash in on it.
There's an original Cheaper by the Dozen franchise, which I saw
Yeah.
as a little kid, and I'll watch anything with Zach Braff because if you've ever seen,
the new one, yeah.
no, for real, if you've ever seen Garden State and you've ever lived in New Jersey, it's hard to talk about
Plus
how
it's,
accurate that is. It's my
Clover
queen.
from Bring It On, yeah. So
It's my wife,
Gabrielle
yeah.
Union.
Gabrielle Union, love her. Nala from the TV show version of The Lion King,
You
where
guys are
Rob
doing this
Lowe
just to
is
piss me
Simba.
off.
Yeah, she and Rob Lowe are Nala and Simba on the TV show version.
That age.
Where can everybody find you, Jonah?
Hi, if you want to follow me, you can find me on pretty much any social at Peak Jonah. That's PEAK, and we're going to ignore that red face up there from anger.
No, they're making fun of my obsession with Natalie Portman right now.
What? No. How did you get to that?
Who brought up Natalie Portman?
Yeah, nobody said
No,
anything about Natalie Portman.
I'm saying Garden State, and you guys are going out of your way not to say anything about Natalie Portman. It is a personal.
It was filmed
offense.
in my town.
Truly
This
love
is
this narrative.
This is an
My town.
unhinged moment. We have not gotten to Drag Race yet. Why are you starting drama?
That is really true.
I love the narrative that A, if they don't talk about it, it's a slight against you, but B, if they somehow talk about it, it is a slight against you. So there is no
Alexis
winning.
Michelle all the way. This is pure Alexis Michelle.
We love a producer moment.
Why didn't you tell me my makeup was bad?
But you didn't say JK, though.
JK,
What are we supposed to be
come on.
talking about?
It's technically only
Only
murders.
How have there not been drag queens on Only Murders yet is really the question.
Very fair question.
All right, so we talked a little bit about Only Murders earlier. Jonah, I'm going to catch you up on what you missed. The thing I said when I thought Only Murders was next and then it was not, is that Only Murders only seeks to further its own story, unlike things like Loki or Ahsoka, which have a responsibility to a greater universe. Yet one of the most incredible things is the interwoven magic of Only Murders seasons and the ways that they bring up characters effortlessly in an attempt to make each season feel like it really is being lived in. That's one of the things that Only Murders feels like an apartment building. And you walk past the same people, you maybe know the apartment you're going to, but you're still going to pass the same people every day. And I am so happy that this mystery was so much better than season 2's finale. It just was maybe not as strong. Jonah, as somebody who watches Only Murders, maybe a little bit more on the Selena Gomez side, not to say that that's all you come for, but that's perhaps the orienting they expect you to come from it at. How do you feel about Only Murders making her the hero of these two oafish older white men?
It's kind of perfection. It's a very great dynamic of
Is this how you feel?
Oh. I mean, do we want to get into it now, or do you want to
No,
save it for
I'm
off camera?
joking.
But I say it with love that yes, it is how I feel sometimes. Not even in a bad way, in all the best parts of ways, where I'm like, I have these two incredibly goofy men who I just have to be a little serious about sometimes. And I'm like, no, but we have to get on track. We have to remember the show. But yes, Mabel this season was very fascinating, whereas the first two seasons, it sometimes felt like Mabel wasn't taking it the most serious out of everybody. Mabel took the show very serious this season. She was kind of the only one taking it serious for a lot of the episodes, and it was a lot of the interpersonal conflict between them, where Mabel's like, we have a show to do. We're trying to solve this. Oliver's too busy with this new romance, and Charles is too busy trying to get a patter song down and also proposing to someone in a white hot room state. It was just a very much, they were kind of dealing with their own things, and Mabel was like, no, but this was our thing, and if you're not doing it, what do we have then?
Yep.
And the fact that they would struggle to find another young ingenue who could facilitate this for them. But she immediately found Taubert, who, such a great character, such a great addition, and not the only character that she could rely on. I'm pretty sure all of our hearts melted when our favorite ASL speaking character crossed our screens this year. And there were other drop-ins. Magical detectives from years bygone. There were very few people who I thought there was an active attempt to disclude, but one of them, like Nathan Lane simply could not make the filming work, and that is why we did not get both Demas men. But I am, of course, so grateful for what we did get. Now, how did you guys feel about the immensity of the guest stars? Kevo, Meryl Streep, Paul Rudd, these are like nombres. These aren't just names, you know what I mean? And how do you feel about watching this show and then seeing, and I'm not trying to be mean, but Meryl Streep's star eclipses all of them pretty handily. How do you feel about her playing a supporting role? You do not think she's more famous than Martin Short, bro?
No, this question is to Kevo. We're going to talk about this in a second.
The way that this show uses its cast and all different actors from all different walks of life is just really so fascinating because, I hear you say Meryl Streep is a supporting role, and I don't necessarily feel her role was completely supporting. I think she was probably one of the more major characters of this season. I think that perception will also be swayed by her involvement in season 4, if any. I hope that's not something that we're going to find out like in news in between, though. Like, you don't want to hear she's definitely not in it, so we're going to go into this knowing they broke up. That's always frustrating, and that's the hard thing about when you have a casting like Meryl Streep.
And do we really need Mamma Mia 3, Mamma Mia at Waterloo?
They really
she wants it.
Does she?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, she's down. She's
Everybody
down for.
You just don't like Mamma Mia because you don't like ABBA.
Well, that's fair.
It's okay, Nico. We're gonna create our own series of movies to the music of Ace of Base. It's gonna be fine. Don't start doing it right now. We got a show. But
for me, I just wanted to wrap up that for me, a lot of the casting isn't really even about the celebrities. It's about the people that most people wouldn't consider celebrities, like featuring Jackie Hoffman so heavily, who we think is hilarious, or someone who ended up being very prominently featured, my TV boyfriend, Wesley Taylor, who I have loved ever since we saw him in the Addams Family musical, and it doesn't ultimately go to someone like Meryl in a moment like that. Just like these do with Poppy. Yeah.
It's funny because Only Murders does sort of have this repeating pattern of cool guest stars that do not come back and they don't really talk about. Cara Delevingne is a big one. Every one of Mabel's romantic partners.
Yeah, this hottie.
He was great too. He was a great actor. He
Not
seemed
Noah
like
Centineo.
Exactly. That's every audition. They're like, I don't want to see Noah Centineo, and they just pull this guy in instead. There are always a bunch of characters that we never see Sting or Amy Schumer again. There's a class of character that just doesn't come back. And it's weird because Meryl Streep is so down to clown that it feels like it would be, Cara Delevingne is a great get for a guest appearance for the season, but I wasn't like, oh God, if she doesn't come back, I'm going to be so bummed. But I will be bummed if Meryl doesn't come back because Meryl is prepared to act at the level of Steve Martin and Martin Short and Selena Gomez too. It's just their star qualities are all super different.
And we don't need her in a lot at this point, especially she wasn't part of the mystery at the end of the day, and now she's just Oliver's love interest. So 3 episodes out of 10 would even be a gift.
And it's great Vincent D'Onofrio did 1 episode of Daredevil season 2. That's all you need.
Yeah.
But I do think, you made an interesting point in terms of the fact that she is, if you take for granted that Oliver, Mabel, and God, I always blank on Charles. Are always going to be there. This is their show. They are the one. If they're creating the podcast, Meryl's kind of the star of the podcast in a way because she's such a focus of what's happening right from the get-go. And then thematically, she's really one of 2 stars, and it's the mothers because this whole season is about what mothers will do for their sons. And this season in particular doesn't really focus on growing Charles, Oliver, or Mabel as characters, almost frustratingly so. We get presented with some moments. I really thought Mabel was going to take the deal with Tina Fey, and that was going to give her the money to buy a place in the Arconia, and that's how she would be back, and she would be successful, and she's a great podcast creator, and, that's how it all starts. And instead, her career stuff amounts to nothing. All she does is confirm that she really loves doing the podcast, and she's going to keep doing it. She still doesn't have a job. She still doesn't make any money, and she talks about how that's scary to her. So it was kind of frustrating to me at times that we saw a lot less character growth from the 3 main people. But as a opposite to that, we saw some really cool growth of characters like Loretta Durkin, Meryl Streep's character.
There's no way she's really that tall.
No, it's a promo picture. Don't believe it.
Oh my God. I was like, if she's really 5'8", good God.
She's probably still got heels on.
5'5".
Still got her heels on.
And I want to jump in on what you're saying, not just about the heels, but, when you're talking about the nature of this season being about what mothers will do for their sons, I think part of what makes that so important is so much of the show has been about what fathers will do for their sons and daughters. We think about the Demases. We think about the nature of...
Oliver and his son, who
I was going to say, of Oliver and his son, exactly.
Yeah.
But who he loves so much. It is a bummer we haven't seen him this season.
He does love his son very much.
He was in episode 1 or 2, but that was it.
Where he's like, you got to slow down. You had a heart attack, Dad.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, when he has the first... Yeah.
In season 1, it's dads loving their sons. And then in season 2, it's dads loving their daughters. And it's essentially how Oliver loves Mabel and how Charles loves his adopted daughter. And then season 3 becomes the story of how mothers love their sons. But what makes season 3 a little bit difficult is they have to manufacture mothers.
Yeah.
Because while season 1 had fathers built in and season 2 had a daughter built in by virtue of Mabel, season 3 had to produce the mothers and ultimately then the sons that would make this story work. So, by giving us Dickie as a way to see so much of this, he's an outsider to the mystery despite being an insider to the mystery, and yet behaves. There were some interesting levels to which it was a transition from a show about patriarchal failure but love to a show about matriarchal love but failure. Those levels and those cycles are really what make this show an experiment in New York storytelling in a way that you really have to know, like, New York theater to really see why this is trying to change television, but is doing it so subtly. It's too subtle sometimes.
So what you're saying is season 4 will be about mothers who love their daughters.
Bless. I would love it was about kids that love their parents personally.
And that's the thing that we kind of need to pick up on, because there's so much of Mabel's relationship with her mom that's untouched on.
Yep.
Her mom, her aunt, really? I mean, we've never
seen the aunt.
But what about Mabel taking care of them? What about daughters caring for their fathers?
And parents in general, yeah.
I do think we have seen a lot of that throughout the show, sort of reflected back in the kid, like the way that Oliver's son takes care of him every season. So I think if we're going by the math, I would sort of expect and be interested in mothers caring for their daughters. I think Mabel and her mother's really interesting. I honestly think I want to keep going back to it because as horrible as she is, I think it's compelling. Mabel's relationship with Tina Fey's character. I think it matters somewhat because there is a side to Mabel that is completely not cutthroat and I think is not thriving and not surviving. And Tina Fey's character is so successful, but is completely soulless. And I think they both need each other a little bit, or could. I think that would be a really interesting plot. At the same time, we got like 2 seconds of Selena Gomez and Meryl Streep. And they're like, Meryl being a part of this friendship now and having kind words for Selena Gomez. And I just thought them being a part of the support team for the guys, even as a mother-daughter type relationship, would be really fascinating.
Kebo, you got something.
No, just that I think part of what keeps me from wanting too much from Tina Fey is she is such a wild card in and of herself that every appearance ongoing, I am like, I thought we'd never see her again.
Yeah, I really did think it was a one-off joke, and then every time I've been shocked. You're right.
So will we see her in season 4?
If she kept appearing, I was going to see the phrase "music composed by No."
Please, no offense. I like it where it works, but this music is amazing.
Now, actually, guys, I tried so hard to do the theme for Only Murders, and it came out like Tori Amos's Cornflake Girl done as the Game of Thrones theme, and then terminated in Zelda music. It was a nightmare.
Well, like you kind of also threw it like in a little bit like a sea shanty mixer of it was a little seafaring and nautical.
It was. God, that was a rough thing I did this morning, so we're not listening.
I'm sure it was great.
But Jonah, I want to ask you a question. You have a unique position, right? I had an older sister who treated me like she was my guardian angel. Jonah, you did not have an older sister. TK, while you had older sisters, you definitely you were the lone wolf. And Kevo, you at any given point had a support structure and support system. But Jonah, you are really a younger person who generally does tend to take care of older people you love, whether it's, me and your dad, or it's, your mom. I realized what I did there. It's, whether it's me and Kevo or your mom or
not Derek,
anyone. It's important to recognize the sort of generational responsibility inversion that has been sort of placed on an entire generation of young people who see themselves savvy enough to care for their loved ones without taking away their agency. You don't see a lot of characters behaving in that modus the way that you're able to see Mabel, because while Mabel is often trying to save Charles and Oliver from themselves, she's never seeking to do so by disabling their agency. And I think one of the things that's really interesting is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Mabel fits into that sort of, her character can either be this super underachiever or hyper successful. And there's nothing else that is ever shown about this type of character in that way, because it requires one of two, type A or that, underachieving type A. I just kind of wonder how it feels to see this iteration where you're a little bit more the direct route successful type. You're seeing Mabel, who took an indirect route to her success by finding herself. What is it like to see the other path iterated with this sort of New York fairy tale aspect?
New York fairy tale, I think, is such an apt description of it, because I think this is true of most major cities. I imagine it's a similar idea that I'm going to talk about in LA, Chicago, these kind of metropolitan juggernauts of culture, of business, of these different kind of things, where it's almost this hyper competitive feast or famine state of, you will succeed, you have all these opportunities, you are aware of the competition. Growing up in Staten Island, I understood, Manhattan's kind of like this big thing. We call it the city. It's literally just called the city. And it's almost the promised land of, like, that's where the money is. That's where you go if you want to try to go make your dreams happen. But they won't, because it's soulless and mean. And that's why we're over here stuck on this trash island.
Wait, you've watched Smash?
I watched Smash Mouth. Rest in peace. So I look at Mabel, and Mabel grew up with this wealth where she didn't have to kind of try. She didn't have to do anything because she had the safety net of her aunt. She grew up mostly in the Arconia, and she's kind of being given these resources that a lot of other people aren't, where you don't really have to face that that feast or famine, sink or swim kind of mentality, when you'll always have that safety net. You'll always have the proverbial lifeboat or the proverbial floaties. But that getting taken away from her, as TK said, we saw this fear, this kind of reaction from her, where she's like, oh, I have to throw myself into the podcast, because if this doesn't work out, what do I have? I don't have anything. She doesn't own her apartment. As we saw, she had to give it up because her aunt gave it up. And it's one of those things of, that's kind of what the other life lives, where, I'm much more of a type A kind of person of, like, no, I will do it myself. In group projects in, middle school and high school, I was very much the person of, no, I will do it.
You don't need to do it. I will do it, and I will send you your part.
Me, I know, this big shocker from what you all know about me, that I would tell my friends, no, I got this. I will get us the A. Don't touch anything. Don't do anything. I will do it. Put your name on it. This fussy boy. And it's the people kind of like Mabel. Mabel's also a very fascinating character, because we often talk about my love for Selena Gomez very vastly comes from me growing up with Wizards of Waverly Place, and Alex and Mabel essentially being the same kind of caricature, but where Mabel has to do certain things we don't know if Mabel specifically the same kind of idea of a prodigy as Alex Russo was, where Alex Russo kind of just chose not to succeed because she didn't have to, because she didn't want to. Mabel also kind of chose not to succeed because she didn't have to, but is now being faced with the position of, I have to succeed on my own. And it's a very interesting character arc that I don't know if we always get to see. Especially, it's very funny seeing someone play both sides of it herself. And I think that's Mabel's character arc, especially throughout this season, was very interesting for me.
It kind of feels to me like some of the stuff you've said to me about your favorite appearances from a person in any reality show, though maybe Drag Race as an example, when they come back and do All Stars, that transformational aspect. Because while I certainly don't think she had so much to control with Alex Russo, I think they tried to design a character around Selena Gomez and her abilities.
Right.
And, well, she'll do Spring Breakers to show that she's an actress. But when she's picking a character that we're going to associate with her for her lifetime, for her livelihood, for the value of who she is, I think in many ways, Mabel represents the same sort of value core that Selena Gomez tries to broadcast as her personal brand, whether it's through Selena and Chef, which, by the way, just got picked up by Food Network. So few shows move from streaming digital to network TV being like, we're going to lose money buying this. It doesn't matter. The cash this gives us is
the subscriber base that it gives you.
Yeah.
She has,
our parents
and it's,
love that show.
the fact that she has,
our parents love that show.
The fact that she has one of the most successful makeup lines in the world, over some of her contemporaries, even, who
Trixie, who,
Kardashian, what?
People who are really spend more time in the public eye doing a lot more appearances. She has this just insanely loyal fan base and has built up kind of a brand of trust, particularly around the makeup and the cosmetics and all like products that I think people really love. I just don't know enough about them to say more than like clearly people are buying them and it's making her good money.
it's
But,
not
like,
Goop.
It is not Goop. That's the thing. It's just makeup. There's no horseshoe. There's no vaginal eggs.
She's very much a businesswoman in the sense that I don't know. So please correct me if I'm wrong. Is she like a producer on the Chef show?
Yes.
Yeah, she has an executive producer credit.
She seems like a lot of the work she is now that she's coming from Disney, coming from the pop star background where she's kind of made that money. She comes across as, I will do what I want. I'm going to fund it, but I need the control.
Yeah.
Where it's, I will have the control of how I appear, what happens, and what goes on, but we will get it done. And I find that very interesting.
While her career has been shorter, she has lived much more in the regimented, you show up every day, you're a child, you do not complain. You hit the mark. We have this much time with you before you have to go do school. So if you want to have a successful career with them, you have to show up and do everything perfectly. And God loves Steve Martin and Martin Short, but comedy is much more like if you show up drunk or high out of your mind and you're still funny after your 5-minute set goes on 20 minutes,
You nailed
people
it.
will
Might
love
add
you.
to it.
And
Do
they're
you
men.
think that Steve Martin was dry the night he came up with King Tut?
Yeah, exactly.
Arrowhead thing, like, come on.
Yeah. So, they come to this with a lot more, recognizability to a certain generation, name recognition, a lot more probably credits to their name. She comes with hours upon hours of getting it right and being really easy to work with, I imagine. Maybe very demanding, but very like, this is the amount of time we have. We're going to hit it. We're going to go.
And just on that, I worked for Disney, and when you work for Disney in the area I worked and the number of celebrities I worked with, I personally never worked with Selena Gomez, but literally nobody in cast had a bad thing to say about when she would show up. And there were people that you were literally like, oh God, they're coming. No.
You better hope you're not here. Yeah.
Yeah. And people, were like, oh my God, Selena Gomez was here the other night. And she looked at me. So like, it was, exactly what you're saying. She is a professional, but also I would give anything for that shawl.
I mean, every single
looks so comfortable.
The hilarious thing too about Selena Gomez in Only Murders is she is full on Carrie Bradshaw. There's no way with the salary that you make of no dollars you can afford a new look every day. $0, 0 cents.
That jacket, that skirt,
everything.
Those sweaters.
There's always a parka in the mix, as
she does love a jacket. She
loves the jacket.
Oliver loves outerwear.
Glasses.
This is like this look in particular. I was like, oh, so she is like, they are going with the, like, she's poor, she's living in a rundown apartment. And then everything afterwards was like, who is it? Where is this coming from? But I'm obsessed with it because that's more fun to watch. Like, we've done it. We talked about this before. It's for me, it's Friends, Sex and the City, and this that depict a New York that is so dreamy, but so much a dream. It's completely unrealistic.
Can I just add one thing to that?
Yeah.
If you need a gayer version, you can add Will and Grace, because and I don't care what anybody says, but the Friends apartment has nothing on the loft space.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Will Truman's apartment.
I give them the credit of giving them 2 jobs where you would make a lot of money at that time, but I will take the credit partially away because they never seem to be working like you would have to afford the stuff.
I also want to say it is also the epitome of New York City, though, that she is currently homeless and still dresses like this.
Right. Exactly.
So I love that. You know, she's homeless. Hey, guys, wait a minute. Season 2 ended with an unbelievable dream of a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
I say very few people are Goodman Todd brilliant. I put very few people in the Trebek Carey category of the greatest game show hosts of all time. But Jane Lynch on Weakest Link is perhaps the greatest cast. I mean, like, as a guy who game shows bring him to tears, like, Jane Lynch on Weakest Link is one of the greatest things that's happened to me as an adult man.
Can I quickly talk about my favorite moment?
Oh, please.
Where one of the questions was who plays Sue on Glee, and the contestant got it wrong, and she goes, "No, me!" And she slams
Actually,
her
she goes, "No,
Jane
Lynch!"
It was brilliant. She's so smart. She's so funny. She's so capable. And killing Saz kind of broke my heart a little bit.
We still don't know that Saz is dead.
But where does Saz live? Where does Saz work? They always say Saz flew in to New York. So if they're going to investigate Saz's life, they could spend a season out in LA with Taubert and Jesse Williams has, since the day I saw him stripped down in Cabin in the Woods, been like the first time I discovered that there was like sexy men on television. Like, I have a really clear memory of, for an example, like Will Truman being treated as a man who it was okay to have like chest hair, but not be buff and not be sexy, but there could be sexy things about him. I think at this point in Jesse Williams' career, he's maybe past what we would consider conventionally sexy. He's maybe a little bit more tired looking, and he does not have the head of hair he, could have as a lead. He's so beautiful and he's so stunning, and there's so much life in this man. His acting chops are so incredible. I think it's kind of brave that they're taking a chance on this actor, and that they're, going to put us in the condition of LA, which is only beautiful people need apply. And I don't know. I just think everything they're doing, celebrating age and beauty, is really excellent.
And I actually, though, think that ultimately killing Saz after having it be a character that we grew to love after all these seasons is also a very brave, bold, really awesome move. And frankly, it is the best possible move for Jane Lynch, because who is more heavily featured in a season than the murder victim? I think we're going to end up seeing the most of Jane Lynch that we've seen of her so far. I think it's really interesting that it seems like there are already seeds and threads potentially. That Scott Bakula text was curious. So I think there's already things. I wonder if Joy is going to somehow be involved in this mystery, and we love her. So I'm so excited they were picked up.
I fully agree with you. It's the best thing that probably could happen for a character. If you actually, in a show like this, you want to be the murder victim, because everything is about you. The entire thing is always about you, and you're like,
Mary Alice appeared a whole lot more than Edie.
And yet Charles will still be able to say it's all about him.
Yes.
That's the magic of being a Charles, thank you.
I hope in season 4, Charles talks to the victim, and that we
oh
see
my
him
god!
As opposed to Mabel doing it.
Wait, hold on. I'm gonna produce the tear. Hold on.
It's coming.
It's going. Almost there. No,
Guys, get inside.
I also love we're getting one of my favorite things in a murder mystery. She's writing something down, and it's in blood, and we'll have to try to figure out what that means.
As her dying moments, dabbing her blood wound.
I still think she might not be dead.
I think
I feel like it's
could
very
be
possible
correct.
she always wears a bulletproof vest.
Oh no,
'Cause
we're on the phone and we're driving, and I'm like, I'm pretty, blah blah blah, and he just goes, "What if she's wearing a squib?"
Yeah, exactly. Whoa, no, that was me. Sorry. Yeah, that was me. Shut up, Nico. Fuck off, Nico.
You normally do that to him. I
Um,
believe coma at the very least.
Yeah, definitely.
And even if in the finale jumps out of bed and says, I was faking the coma the whole time to lure out the murderer. Something. But yeah.
We'd eat it up.
But we eat anything. We're garbage.
Just like Oliver and hummus. I have a problem. I'll get help later.
I want to talk for a moment about using Oliver's health as sort of an operative moment. We talked a little bit earlier about how my emotional reaction to Broxton, Oklahoma is religious. And yeah, it's pretty intense. But, when you talk about JMS, you really are talking about John Michael Straczynski, a guy who is responsible for what is considered the script writing textbook. And I remember getting the edition that came out just after The West Wing ended. And it said, having Bradley Whitford's character have health problems 2 seasons in a row is just sloppy writing. And I remember thinking, J. Michael Straczynski, this is coming at it from a very episodic, try not to repeat things, try to give everybody a unique experience, every episode point of view. And I found initially my understanding of giving Oliver so many heart attacks in a season was kind of like, no. But the more I thought about it, and the more I thought about what they're trying to say about what celebrity costs across, whether it's Tina Fey's character, Charles' character, Saz's character, Scott Bakula, but the real thing that I thought was an interesting device, and I'm going to make it kind of weird, but Loki was bound by this inability to stop ripping himself inside out. Ahsoka was bound by her inability to stop going with what she felt the Force was saying. There was a magical draw to theater. And it's something that I think we talk about a little bit with shows, but like when you watch Glee, musical numbers provide magic. When you watch Desperate Housewives, a mystery beginning creates a spell. And it's Twin Peaks powerful magic. With the Arconia, when they decide a mystery has begun, it creates a magic these characters can't escape. I almost think that Oliver couldn't die till the mystery was solved by the rules of magic. Kevo, I see you got a thing.
Well, and to build on what you're saying, wait, I lost it. Rephrase. What were you saying? Remind me.
I was talking about the fact that I think that one of the things that we need to talk about with mystery-based shows or thematic-based shows is that they sort of create a magic mystery. Once the mystery begins, Oliver can't die because...
it was what you were talking about with Oliver being so obsessed with the show and being so dedicated and doing so much for the show. And, I think in the latter half of the season, we focused so much on he was protecting Loretta from being accused because we knew he was in love with her. But I started rewatching season 3, and rewatching the premiere, first of all, is the most rewarding premiere rewatch of the whole series. Rewatching this premiere after the finale and seeing it line up with who the murderer is, and watching Paul Rudd call Wesley Taylor boy so many times.
It's not boy.
He comes back from the dead, and it's casually there when he comes back from the dead, and he just, I know what I called you. But I got through the first few episodes, and then I got distracted by rewatching Teen Wolf for some reason, because it's Halloween. But I got through when he threatens Loretta, you're under contract, when she's trying to leave the show. He's in love with her. But even her, when she's trying to leave the show, I don't care. You're under contract. And then she ultimately is the one who says, I want to stay, so we don't have to feel that way about Oliver. But he was ready at one point to say, I'm not going to let anything ruin my show. And he was protecting her because he loved her, but he was also protecting his show at all points. And it really feeds into everything you were saying about Oliver being so dedicated to it and to the theater.
Well, I think a lot of that comes with, at the very end of season 2, we learn that Oliver is not the biological father of his child. And I think with the failure of Splash and him no longer...
His only win was his son.
His being how much he loved his son and how that got taken away from him. This show meant more to him than anything.
Because it
And
wasn't
still
his with Charles.
His son is still his, but people are people, and we accept that psychology is complicated.
Yes.
That's a great read.
Great read. Oh, wow.
And I think one of the other things that we see is they're all really unhealthy in their own ways. And it's that thing of, this isn't the Always Sunny cast where we're like, these are horrible people that we love watching.
Yes.
But this isn't wholesome. Every single person is flawed to a way that they really should fix it. They would be better off if they fixed it. But we all have things like that. And we kind of don't really, we all know what we're working on. And sometimes it's nice if a friend is like, hey, do you need help? But it's not really nice if people are constantly like, this thing about you is a disaster. And, every once in a while it has to come up. Like, you cannot survive on dips alone. You've had 2 heart attacks. You have problems you have to fix. Mabel, you don't have a job. You can't settle into anything. You have no idea where your life is going. Charles, kind of the same criticism.
Charles, not everything is about you. You are not as famous as you actually think you are.
There's that too.
Charles has Brazos money, thank you. Which,
he has the money, but
I think not say Brazos money.
One of the big things with Charles is he clearly has so much talent and he's not working enough. Like, he's not putting his talent to use. He wants to back away from the show, until he nails the patter song. He says he can't do the patter song. He has to go to the White Room, which is a disaster in and of itself. Like, all of these characters are disasters, but only if you look at these things that they for themselves should fix. These things don't affect any of us. We're not Oliver. We can't have his heart attack for him. So we're just watching someone we love hurt themselves. But we all do that. And it's a really kind of beautiful, intense, but like much more realistic and much less like, well, this person is just TV perfect. So pleasant to follow, but entirely difficult to connect with.
I love that. I mean, and
that's all I got.
That's part of what you're talking about is I think the ability to see ourselves in the New York fairy tale that I was mentioning earlier. We're talking about what if you need to put on a wedding dress. Not all of us have had to put on a wedding dress, but like, you could imagine needing to run somewhere and come up with a story and try and get through it. Like, there are humanizing elements, even for all of the father of the bride over the toppery that is this sequence. The humanizing parts of this show are so magical, and I think they really define the experience. And of course, we are unfortunately at our discussion's end for Only Murders Season 3, which has been such an incredible season. I know. I'm so bummed.
Now we just got to wait for Season 4.
It's really nice to know so quickly that we're getting it, though.
Yeah, I'm very glad they told us when they told us.
My hope is just simply that if we're talking about shows and we're talking about Friends and New York fairy tales, when you transport the New York fairy tale to LA, you get one of 2 things. You get Joey or you get Sex and the City Season 5. I am praying for Sex and the City Season 5. Oh my God, Carrie's book reading is one of my favorite episodes of the entire goddamn show. So, I have no complaints about going to LA, but you need to understand that the New York fairy tale and the LA fairy tale are different by about 3.3 million homeless people. So it's a very different experience to discuss. Also, they have In-N-Out Burger, but we have Nathan's. So,
and Wawa.
I do.
Oh God, we have Wawa. Every now and then when I go outside of the tri-state and I'm like, Dunkin', and they're like, no. And I'm like, Wawa? And they're like, no. I'm like, what do you people have? And they're like, we've got a Starbucks.
Where
And
do
I'm
you
like,
I didn't
go
get my Wawa
outside
the
the
other
state
night.
that doesn't have a Dunkin'?
like California does not have
Ah.
Dunkins everywhere.
California has Dunkin'.
America
But
runs
not
on it.
everywhere.
Ben Affleck has fixed that. I don't particularly care if they go to LA. I would be really happy if they stayed in the Arconian. Hi, Tasty Cake. Yeah, we love Wawa
Thank
here.
you. We love Wawa.
The Wah.
The one by Nico's house has a magical like spiral moat to get to it. It's very intense.
Very enchanting.
Oh yeah, like the Castle Hill. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very fortified.
Wild.
I
Go.
I don't imagine we'll spend an entire season of
Yeah.
in LA. Even if we do, we might not. I think it'd be really funny if we go there and there's a sister building to the Arconia. Because why not? Architecture works like that. It could be a mirror
The
building.
Laconia.
I mean, I would love to
Arconia.
see it be, I would love to see it be very much California on the beach style home, like a completely different architecture, but the same, number of people, the same, like, yeah, we all have our own stories going on in this building too, you jabronis.
This right here, this is Michael Mancini's beach house.
It gives you the ability to walk. Well, the beach does outside it, so that makes it prime real
we
estate.
know that if you happen to paralyze your sister, if you leave
That's
her,
what I'm saying.
If you leave
Throw
her, to
her
be
in the ocean.
throw her in the ocean,
She'll walk again.
She'll
So that's
walk.
what we're looking forward to from Only Murders in the Building is Melrose Place cast cameos.
And
Do it.
Alex Russo using her ocean magic. Now, Jonah, this has been a real pleasure to talk about with you. What are your final thoughts? Season 3, Only Murders in the Building. Go.
I actually think season 3 is probably the best season we've had. It had probably the most engaging mystery with the victim that I think we as the audience, as unlikable as oh my god,
Ben Glenroy.
Ben Glenroy, thank you. It's very
Glenn.
confusing me. Benny Glenn, as
Benny Glenn.
unlikable as he was at certain moments, I still think he was the most compelling victim that had the most had the best narrative to be like, oh, there's actual stakes to this, and it actually all makes sense. I thought the mystery and the way that it unfurled and the way that they gathered and secured certain information, it all led together into a much better mystery as opposed to having to quickly tie up all the loose ends for it to make sense at the end, or it to be like, we don't really care about this person and the twist doesn't really work a la season 1 or season 2. I thought this was probably the best season. Honestly, in part to both the stellar casting and acting from Paul Rudd and Meryl Streep. Paul Rudd giving the hardest performance of his life to a cookie is what
a
he did
literal
not-
cookie. You're not being silly.
No,
a literal cookie.
A literal cookie. Paul Rudd delivers one of the most impassionate speeches, and truly, it's like, did you have to go that hard? No, but he chose to.
He must be thinking of an ex-wife somewhere because, good God.
He honestly, that should be submitted for an Emmy reel or something. It truly is amazing.
She's right. You're a pig. Oh my God.
And a way to make one of these most surprisingly compelling victims of the series so far.
I was just so confused when nobody came in, read it, and then washed it off the mirror. Was it not he was eliminated from Drag Race?
Oh my God!
Well,
Great
Good
transition.
Just roll with it.
Great,
Everybody roll with it.
great
We're
transition.
good.
I'm actually going to hide
get
the
right into
comment,
it.
and for a moment, I'm going to give you the confetti for that one because that was great.
Yeah. Way to go.
So you got the confetti. Good job, sir. As I roll us over to Drag Race UK, fantastic transition, sir. And here we are.
And speaking of fantastic transitions, this season out of the UK versus the world season was maybe something that had me a little nervous. I wasn't sure what to expect. Could you just jump back into the season exactly as UK used to be? And the answer is no. This season is fucking the trashiest shit I have ever seen on UK Drag Race, and I am fucking obsessed. First of all, whatever Caramel wants, give it to her. She's a star, and we are all Watch it.
I don't owe you this.
Swear to God, that was like Julia Roberts getting an Oscar in 1998 levels of brilliant. I am more impressed with Caramel's knowledge of how to work a camera producer than I am of anything the UK has churned out. And I am including some unbelievable queens who gave some unreal performances. I am telling you, if you're asking me if anybody this season is going to be a legend, it's Caramel.
It does feel like she is having the Sasha Colby moment.
Yup.
Where she just kind of walked in, pissed all over the floor, and it's her show. And that's great. That's fine. Those are actually really fun seasons. I don't think we have nearly as many of them as we think we do. Bob kind of has the attitude, but the show is really edited to make you wonder if it's not going to be Bob. To me, Bob was a comedy superstar. Bianca was a comedy superstar as soon as they came in. But I could potentially the whole time see RuPaul being like, yeah, but I don't feel like a comedy superstar.
Yeah, I'm not looking to laugh. I met Milton Berle. I'm covered.
And I didn't know that Sasha was going to win, but it still just felt like her show in an entirely different way. And it does feel that way with Caramel too. And then she revealed that she also knows how to G a gun. And I think it all feels a little bit contrived because it's her roommate. And she said to her when they both realized they were leaving the house for an extended period of time at the same time after being shut in their room on a bunch of video conferences for the past 3 months, that they were both going on Drag Race. She said to her, go with whatever I say. No matter how.
Let's add. Let's go.
Yes,
Tamara, right?
We're improving this whole Tamara Thomas. Yes.
It was also just one of those weird kerfuffles that was just such an unnecessary thing to fight about. Because I feel
it was a fight over nothing.
Tamara was specifically part of what she was trying to say is I don't know what dresses you've sewn.
I
don't
kept
know
waiting
what
for
dresses
her
photographic memory, you bitch.
But
I kept waiting for
was so
Caramel to be like,
focused.
that one that I wore that time, 2 months ago when I
She
had that
doesn't
gig.
know her that. And I didn't like that. There are a lot of instances where you deserve to say that to someone.
Yeah.
I don't owe you my time. But to say to someone, you know what dresses I've sewn, and then say no, well, which ones? I don't owe you that. Well, then now you're just playing games.
Yeah.
And it's actually more than anything just exhausting. And I don't have time for that. But so much of the way that Tamara presented it to Rue was being a little bit too cheeky.
Yeah.
And maybe Caramel was being too sensitive, but she was being sensitive about the way you were talking about her in front of your boss.
Yeah.
Fair.
Not only her boss, someone she probably looks up to as the first black editor-in-chief of British Vogue.
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, first of all, there is a character that Wayne Brady, now that he is an out pansexual, would destroy.
Get out of here.
Him and his little dog, Rue.
The fucking dog, I'm obsessed.
The way he said "don't fuck it up" was like literally like.
I was bummed that he wasn't a judge.
The fact that he said it that way, I was just like, that is a black queer person telling you that he has struggled more than you will ever understand.
Yep.
He is literally telling you not to fuck it up.
Yeah.
Can I also just add to quickly circle back to the Caramel Tamara fight?
Yeah,
Tamara
I have something on that
also
too.
genuinely didn't seem to understand what the problem was, which made it that much more hilarious.
Yes.
That she was genuinely confused. What did
I
I
don't
do
think
wrong?
she understood semantics is part of it.
No,
and like you just have to let stuff go.
Yeah.
It was really funny that she just could not quite get it. And like
Yeah.
Caramel tried to explain it. And Tamara was like, but I don't understand what I did wrong. It was
Go take a nap. Everyone take a nap.
And then later in the episode where Kate Bush and Banksy are explaining the drama to the horse.
Yes, the horse is so good. So this is to
I
my
need to
point.
add the horse to this image.
Yes, you
This
do.
is to my point that I feel like it's not just Tamara and Caramel who clearly have a relationship and know to work. I think the producers that cast these queens said to them, the formula is getting stale here.
Get
Come
US.
in, be American girls.
Yup.
They use so much
Nico's been
AAVE.
saying.
To the point where it's almost problematic. There's
I've literally
much...
called that specific thing. I called that out twice this episode.
Lots of AAVE from people who are white and British. So like completely, I don't like when Americans do it either, but you can at least give the thing of like, they've been around it. In this case, which is still no excuse, like it's just, you know, but in this case, it just feels like they were told, come in, do as the American girls do. And I think some of them were coached like, hey, if you can do some kooky stuff, if you can start a stupid fight, this will bring some livelihood to it. And I'm constantly torn between the Kevo position of I don't have time for it, and I am very aware that the past 4 seasons, the energy has waned, despite the fact that the talent seems to keep going up. So I don't quite know what the balance is. I see it shakily holding at this point, but every time you realize that fight was about absolutely nothing, it does sort of start to wobble the ship over to like, is this too much?
Yeah. I mean, in current watching, I got to watch majority of Canada season. Rewatching for me, but for the first time, Kevo Nico watching Canada season 1.
Yeah.
Kevo, this, and to give you the answer, this very much elicit almost the same kind of fight from Canada season 1 of Alona and Scarlet Bobo literally actually fighting about nothing, where where Alona says, your energy's like really negative right now and you're bringing it over to me. Scarlet's saying, what am I doing? I'm just painting my face. I felt so bad for her because she's literally in the middle of painting her makeup, and it's not a beautiful process.
And again, it almost feels like Canada doesn't have the same type of drama.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to up the drama in a way that reflects America, but because their behaviors and standards are different, they don't really know how to present it the same way. And it's very similar, you know, and one very prime example that I can think of to use is the word cunt is used very liberally in different places. It is not used liberally in America the way that it is used in the UK or in Australia. And so if you see someone who perhaps doesn't behave as bombastically as America, but has that different standard, starting behave as bombastically as Americans and also have their British standards, it's going to come across as really unhinged.
It's chaotic. It is really chaotic. And that people are coming in with storylines of like, I'm 1,000 years old and I've been doing this forever and I'm finally on Drag Race, and they're crying about it. And when they fail, you know, it's going to be it's going to be the crying of like, you know, I didn't do well and I'm 1,000 years old and I thought I would make it.
But they're all 1,000 years old looking like a fucking fine 35. And so some of it is, we are in the age of filler queens, perfect lighting, and gorgeousness in a way that is certainly not. Oh yeah, I meant like filler.
Yeah.
Queen.
No. TK and I made the same gesture.
We both Botoxed our faces.
I mean, like, you know, these women are so stunning, and when they're out of drag, they are fucking fine daddies. And so when they're trying to say to me, I'm so not beautiful, you are so fucking not beautiful that you got cast on RuPaul's Drag Race. Are you kidding? It's one of those things that these queens are given these stories to execute, where sometimes I'm like, yes, I understand that Flor, just to use Down Under since it came up a moment ago, Flor had an absolute reason to feel disadvantaged as a Spanish language speaker in a nation that is not necessarily known culturally for its Spanish inclusivity. But I understand the UK to be a very, and I'm going to just be honest, somewhat xenophobic, at times isolationist nation state that does not always have room in its heart for its brothers and sisters from its borders. And so to be a Polish queen in the UK must be terrifying. But more frightening for me would be to be on the UK show and be told, no, you have to make that your storyline. You need to make some sort of like, I'm a sad little pierogi story and talk about how you just wish that you could save up all of your little bratwurst and kielbasa to make yourself a beautiful dress one day. And like, I don't know if that was really her story or not, but this season of Drag Race really wants you to be a type, and wants you to behave like ya type. And remember, ya type.
To talk about our dearly departed and recently fallen sister of Alexa St. Pete, who I was devastated to see us lose.
I did not think she was going this early.
Really
No,
not fair. She was great.
From my sleuthing and understanding, especially Poland, that's a very has this kind of wave of very conservative, very homophobic,
hugely
very
problematic,
very like,
verging on
dangerous.
Nazism.
It's one of those things where you can tell how much love she has for Poland, but it's also she doesn't want to be the Polish queen. She wants to be, no, I am an expat. I came here. I am a British queen. Britain is my home as much as I love Poland. And it also kind of felt like I don't know a lot about the culture, just the general culture of Poland in general, but it doesn't seem like she really kind of understood the reality TV format. And, it's one thing to be a fan of Drag Race and it's another to actually get on the show, but it seemed like other queens were prompting to try to make the storyline, but we squashed this kind of thing with Dee Dee immediately, and now we're left with nothing. And it's one of those things of, oh, girl, you gotta play into it just a little bit longer, because the more of a story you have, the more likely they're going to keep you.
And think about the versus the world factor. The more of a story you have, that's Lemon being on UK versus the world after serving nothing but cunt in straight volumes over in Canada. It was rough. And the more storyline you have, the more they're willing to see you evolve. You're really, really right with that. It's what you put in is what you get.
But
please go, Kevin.
No, and just and yes and no. And I think part of it though is you can't keep trying to force something that isn't there, because it doesn't necessarily produce good television, something that will stick with me. My most beloved television reality series of all time is one particular season of The Real World, New Orleans. And it is one of the only Real World seasons that was given managed to get a reunion season. And I will always remember Kelly Wolf reacting to what she felt was Julie kind of going a little extra, going a little hard, stirring up drama that wasn't necessary. And Kelly being like, it is not our job to make the story for these producers. We are here to go about our lives and interact with each other, and they will make the story. And if there's stuff that comes up, there's stuff that comes up, but you don't need to be starting these fights that are fake, drawing out this drama that is unnecessary, because someone will fill up that space talking about how they were left at a bus stop, or someone will fill up that space talking about their eating disorder or having eczema or their parents don't talk to them. Someone will be jealous of someone at some point in a real way that will create real drama. I don't fear that with gay men. So you don't need to just make crap up, and it just makes you look silly and petty, and it's getting you attention, but not in a good way.
I'm so glad you brought up Julie, because Julie holds a unique designation in my heart. I've talked about it with these guys. I don't think it's ever been committed to air, but the man that made me realize I might be gay and I might have to deal with being gay was Dan on Real World Miami. Really, 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 I was like, am I like him? That was really, it was like him and George Michael. That was a really intense thing where I have made Jonah listen to me do, was it addressed to you, you stupid bitch? 600 and I literally do it for him once a weekend.
Don't talk to me, Flamer.
Dan from Real World Miami. I learned that I was gay looking at him and seeing him, and then when he came back, what was yours?
Mine was Pedro. Which was that's probably one of the most tragic things in my life. And not to make it about me, but that season was the first season where I was a conscious being really thinking about the real world. And I was like, oh fuck. It was like I'm having that realization at the same time that I'm reading Uncanny X-Men 303, where Lyanna dies of the legacy virus, which I realize is an AIDS metaphor. And just so much of the messaging back then was, everyone hates you and you're going to die. And even your heroes deal with that.
And will die.
and are then going to die. And that's all that you have. And I really do love that subsequent seasons of The Real World, we did have people like Dan and Danny who thrived and had great lives and did experience homophobia and a lot of fucking nonsense, but had a very different experience than the early seasons of The Real World.
And this could be a positive evolution of that instead of having to devolve into something else.
Hey, that's exactly what I was going for, Kevo. So you guys literally brought it perfectly full circle. I think about how Dan has talked a lot about his anger problems. Oh, Dan and Julie had a podcast together. That's the whole connection between Dan and Julie.
Yeah.
Released an episode of a podcast together.
Yeah.
Dan has talked about how angry he was and how much he hates that. And like, when he came back for Real World Road Rules the Challenge, I remember him talking about trying to be a better man and never disrespecting women like that again, and how he felt sick that that's what he was known for. But like, I remember thinking, I'm gay and I'm angry. I'm so angry. I'm angry all the time. And like, Dan was so mad in that moment. And I think Drag Race UK, when you think about Drag Race in general, RuPaul is literally a creature of Dan from the Real World Miami's era. And when you think about the kind of like drama she wants, when she says be an American girl, you know, she's not saying be Estelle. She's saying ask her if the address was hers, you stupid bitch.
One of the dogs loved that joke. That's great.
Yep, that's Amy.
To your
Amy
point
loved
about
it.
that, this episode had one of the weirdest things ever happen on the main stage in front of God, or as we call her, Michelle Visage, that Rue specifically brought up drama from the workroom that happened after she left. This never happens. This, to my knowledge, is the first time it's ever happened on the main stage. Rue will bring up drama in the next episode during a walkthrough, be like, hey, I heard you two might have gotten to a tiff. Is there anything you want to say about that? And Rue will, leave the crumbs and try to, have them trail there. But this was the first time that RuPaul has brought it up on the main stage. And my reading of it specifically was, I actually really enjoyed the moment. I appreciate that they both kind of took a moment to apologize, where Tamara said, hey, maybe I didn't really understand what I was saying. I apologize for that. And Caramel saying, hey, maybe I got a little too heated and a little too sensitive about it. Thank you, and they're both just kind of apologizing. And RuPaul going, oh, okay. As if
this wasn't what she thought was going to happen. She wanted to fight.
RuPaul wanted another instance of the fight. However, I don't know if RuPaul realizes that she's RuPaul sometimes, and that these queens are not going to do that in front of her, because that's embarrassing.
How revealing.
Neither of them was in the bottom, right?
No,
Caramel was in the bottom.
Caramel was in the bottom, and Tamara.
I think that's part of why too, because if they didn't address the drama and Caramel was in the bottom, you wouldn't believe she might go home with that unresolved.
I agree. I just want to say that Tamara was dressed the way that, like, I always think of Katie Seagal when I think of Katie Seagal as one of Bette Midler's backup dancers. Tamara might not have been a designer, but that literally was the definition of the perfect Vegas showgirl look. She got lucky.
I disagree. I think she was in the top specifically for that moment.
I think she was in the top because those colors were literally the kind of vibrant Miami 1992 that dazzled RuPaul.
How we can say that in good conscience she was on that stage in the top when we had people who were safe, who any one of those safe people should have been in her place.
Babe, you never did coke in the 90s. That's just
I do feel like she perfectly executed an aesthetic. It's really a freeze frame thing.
Yes,
you look at it for 1 second and it's perfection.
Perfect.
I do agree. The other side of it is it doesn't move that well. But I also felt that way about Aquaria's black line outfit that RuPaul loved. There's a thing that RuPaul loves every once in a while, and a queen Tamara's going to be a Roxy Andrews. She's going to be a drag queen that people love to go see, that drag queens love to see perform. And that moment, and just the shape that the feather gave, the elongated pink feather shape.
The length it gave her body was exquisite.
I'm not as harsh as like if she should have been in the bottom. I thought it was bottom.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear that. Yeah,
I genuinely do think the reason why she was put in the top over other people whose outfits might have been a little bit stronger is for that moment. Very
because
specifically.
It's a flip of the role. You know, Caramel really thought she would win, and that Tamara, being kind of a bumbling fool, wouldn't.
They didn't like. I didn't have as much of a problem with her outfit as they seem to have had.
Wait, Caramel?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, Caramel's was literally passable. The worst thing about it was, from some angles, she looked like an excited pinata.
In which case, I do see what Jonah's saying about the fact that when they go into the workroom next episode, everybody will be able to say, Caramel, you thought you had this in the bag. You went to design school, and Tamara used a glue gun, and you guys fought about outfits, and she's in the top. What do you think about that? And then it becomes a whole continuing story. I get what you're saying, Jonah, and I think that that's an equally valid interpretation. That's one of those things where, like, I would love to sit down with a producer like who couldn't lie and say specifically, was that a moment that everybody was living for, or was that just strategically it works to put, you know, to flip their roles and make them kind of fight it out more? What?
So I think what you're suggesting is we have to find a gay male producer of Drag Race.
Yeah.
Lasso his dick with the lasso of truth and be
okay. Nailed it. Yep.
We've honesty cock ringed you.
Yep.
It's time to tell us the tea.
That's always a plan B for me in life.
Well, I guess it's a plan B for some people as
well.
Like
for a career?
Mm-hmm. Career, you know, getting out of a sticky situation.
Plan
A, afterwards, I guess.
Plan B, cock ring dicks.
Yes.
There were two people in this episode that I think kind of surprised me in really good ways. I thought Kate Butch was actually pretty funny the first episode, but this episode I think she kind of cemented herself as the narrator.
Yep.
She truly got her one-liners out. She said, "I'm not part of this drama, but I will get the camera time," and she still just looks so quintessentially British that like again she looks like the definition of a British person.
British Jinx Monsoon. So I guess
unironically, yes,
like Jinx Foggy Morning.
She had the brilliance to see that RuPaul left them a prop and play with the prop. That is
so funny. It was so good.
She is the only queen that I can think to myself, if I need somebody to put on an outfit and describe themselves as Champagne Supernova, she is so 1996 Oasis British. Yeah. But part of what works for that is, I'm sorry, she's not 26. She's hot and I'd take her home. But she carries herself with the...
Oh, she's 41.
Yes, the agency of a woman in her 40s. Yes.
Same age as me.
Yep.
Well, all three of us are 26.
I just want to be clear. Kate Bush is a fucking looker. That's a handsome man.
Yeah, and he's super handsome. But the whole vibe is, 35 to 50.
Game of the stage. Yeah, the whole
you know
vibe
what?
Is,
she
I
literally...
remember when Cheetah Rivera was auditioning.
Do you know what she literally kind of is? We got to Billie Eilish's brother on Glee, and we're like, you are a 45-year-old man. Jesus. No, he was 17.
Yeah.
He was 17, and he looked like he was in his 30s. Because some
like
people
Lane
just...
on Mad Men.
I will play my iPod too loud, to which you will hear my Joe Rogan podcast. I will try to sell you weed afterwards. I am.
Listen, the thing you got to remember is it's just a podcast, and it's not like I'm political, but it's like
Listen, he's in his apology era right now. He's like,
keep this off the air, Nico.
Since I'm 11 years old, I've thought Joe Rogan was really handsome, but what he said was iffy. So
and it all went downhill.
Here we are.
And the other person that actually kind of shocked me in a way that like, oh, I kind of see you and I really get you, was Banksy.
They carved out story for her.
Banksy was my number one breath taker this episode. I think Banksy looks a little trashy most of the time. This look was Met Gala. This was really brilliant.
Banksy was able to do what a lot of people strive to do but can't often achieve. Not only just mixing colors and mixing patterns, Banksy gave a very modern approach to like this 60s look and Banksy and that blonde hair with like the twiggy eyelash. Banksy looked so good. I'm like getting like chills thinking about like how good she looked.
Well,
It was...
I also want to say, look, don't get me wrong, and her name is escaping me right now, but the queen that saved herself at Lip Sync for Your Life, and her name is escaping me right now.
Miss Naomi Carter.
Miss Naomi Carter showed more personality, more gumption, more strength of character than any 50 queens I can pile together. First of all, out of drag, she is one of the hottest men to ever be on UK. So, hey, baby. But number two, yeah, this look was a disgusting nightmare. This episode was hideous. Lil' Kim would have been like, baby, you got to think about what you're doing. Because that's about as much as Lil' Kim can move her mouth.
So bad. And I saw someone say this,
terrible.
Saying, what did she work on? Like, what how did she use her time? Did something not go right that she, like, besides everything not going right? And I will say, the way she was selling it, I was like so ready to slam my credit card down to try to buy it. But I was like, no, this is wrong.
And it's so funny because like the last person I can think of who did that a lot and RuPaul really responded in the same positive way that she did here was Tia Coffee. I think every time Tia Coffee sucked, we were like, but come on, she's selling it so hard. We love her. But it was always...
There are so many queens who, when they give their like 85%, she's like, no.
Yeah.
And garbage troll.
Yep, and it's a perfectly good 85%. You know, they're doing great. But then she has these, and she kept saying to her, it's almost so rotten, it's good. You just missed a few details. Like, I really think if she had had 3 more straps to cover up the vajuge, it might have been
one singular runway
instead
strip.
of just the one. Yeah, that she couldn't get any more is fucking wild. But like RuPaul was so encouraging, and I think it's a thing that I keep waiting for her to bring back. Safe is not a great place to be. I think, unfortunately, we've gotten too many people saying that's a lot of tears for safe, but I miss the days when RuPaul would warn them about being safe. And this is the perfect example of RuPaul saying like, no, you did not do well this week, but oh man, were you close? Like, I almost love this. And she encouraged her so much. She just said, you didn't get all the way there, and this is a pass or fail thing.
You're going to make fun of me, but TK, you of all people on the human planet will appreciate this.
Yeah.
Linkin Park's best song is My December. You know what? If you're going to swing hard, and sometimes you're really going to knock it out of the park. But also, Linkin Park have 4 bad albums. So, you know, lots of swings end up badly. And RuPaul really, she fought for Naomi. She was like, it was so bad, it was almost good. And Michelle had to be like, baby, no. And Rue was like, but maybe. No, Michelle was not letting Rue have her bad taste this episode. You know, I think about the fact that, and hear me out, but RuPaul is my only choice for an Adam West Batman reboot. There is no one who would have as much fun being silly, being camp.
Or at least Batgirl.
Yeah, no, celebrating this love of silly, because she thinks the further into stupid you go, the better you've become as a performer, as an artist, because stupid is where we all live. And if you can make stupid art, then you've done it. And God, she wanted to give it to Naomi. She
and I think
really did.
I think it just wasn't quite art. It was, you know, she just missed a few things that made the final piece like, it's not going to work. And I love that. I think that's so exciting because it means like if you do the exact same thing again and just take it one step further, you might have something that excites this person that even when she gives you the win, she's not always excited. It is sometimes...
It's begrudging.
It's not even that it's just begrudging. Like the begrudging ones are funny in their own way. It's the ones where she just is like, by the numbers, it's you, it's great. I am just on a lot of Quaaludes tonight and I don't care.
It's
we're
me,
just getting
RuPaul
through the episode.
Tina.
Yeah. But there are some where she's just like, she's hyped about the outfit And I really see Miss Naomi Carter having been given the prompt that, like, you might do it. You might get me there. And so far, even though I think there are some really amazing queens, I think Caramel, right now, I think it's Caramel, Tamara, Banksy, and Kate Butch. That's probably my top 4.
I don't want to do this to myself, but I think Kate Butch is going to lose at the last second to DDD. Right, it's King DDD. That's her name.
It's King DDD.
Right?
That's what I call her every time.
She's running around smashing things with a giant hammer.
100%. That is
RuPaul calling her DD-lusional this episode.
Hair receding on all sides. DDD.
Oh my God, Kevo. So two of us are sexy bald men and very virile, but
no judgment.
DDD
sometimes it happens.
Has this like all around receding hairline that is really sexy on him. Like I almost want to be like Jonathan Groff, take a call. But the main thing that DD-licious is giving me is venom. She's not evil, but if you beat her, she hates you. And I think she has the hate to go to the top. Like I want to see her take Kate Butch, absolute top 3 front runner, out at the top 4 legs. I want to see it be a sick upset, and I want everyone in the UK mad. I want everyone in the UK bitter. I just think Dee has the fucking Aquaria to go all the way, the Violet to go all the way.
I do see it.
Ready to take it out from under you, 1000%.
I won't be mad if she beats Tamara, Banksy, or Kate Butch. If she gets there organically, sure. I really think no matter
Caramel.
I think no matter what, Caramel's in that top, and unless she just really disappoints throughout,
I'd like keep it on, please.
Yeah, I mean, she might do that. It might be an Alyssa Edwards thing where you realize that her own brand is just going to be its own thing that like is good for Drag Race, but is always its own thing.
I will say, congrats to Dee for probably having the biggest turnaround from episode 1 to episode 2.
Yeah.
Where episode 1, it was unfortunate, not purposefully, but it just felt a little sloppy. It felt a little unprepared. Felt very green. Of like, girl, you should be knowing a little bit better of what to be doing here. But she really, she gave the best drag outfit. That was a drag outfit, and she looked good.
Shoulders.
Her talking about what she made for Crystal for season 3, she made some of Crystal's best looks, and it's like, you know how to design and sew. Damn, girl.
She actually made all of the looks that made Crystal's obsession with giant fake breasts look okay, because Crystal's breasts really ruined so many of Crystal's like shape lines.
Because Crystal has a tiny head. It's so unfortunate. Like, you have this beautiful
but
small
Dee
head,
knew what to do.
And then she just wants these. She wants the triple Ds. And then it's just proportionally, it looked weird. She had a little bit of a peanut head.
Yeah. But, I'm excited for UK season 3. Kevo, you had a pretty tame reaction to this episode, but I think one of the things that I love the most is that whenever we get to that point in the judging, you basically scream like a girl at a Beatles concert for the repeater badges. It is my favorite thing in the entire world. Do you have any opinions going into this other than DD-licious clearly dressed herself as Icarus from the Eternals in that central image?
No, I don't think I have any personal front runners yet. It's still a little early to tell, and I wasn't expecting a nobody goes home in the first week.
Nobody goes home.
Yeah, but now that we're actually in the races, I guess we're going to see who will make it.
Jonah, TK, do either of you have any final thoughts on UK season? It's 5. Wow, but it's like 5 with a 4.5 in the middle. So I always want to be like, it's 5+, right? Do you guys have any opinions on 5+ so far? Or are there any queens that you can't see making it to the end, or queens you see definitely finishing out that you haven't mentioned yet?
I felt bad, but our 2 older queens of Vicky Vivacious and
were they
Michael
even in this
Maruli,
episode?
They were.
They didn't have a larger point to the story, because it felt like we gave the old biddies their their time in the first episode, so we're kind of just going to ignore them for right now.
Who was the other one you said? Vicky and
Michael Maruli, who is clearly Michael
Maruli, but they're trying to do
cousin.
a second Gabriele Labucci moment of making it very Italian, which I don't.
It's a different market. It's not the same thing.
No, we're doing it somewhere else. I think Michael probably has a lot more to offer that I think we haven't fully gotten to see just yet.
He's like an older fashion queen.
So I'm excited to see a little bit more from them. Right now, based off the way these first two episodes kind of went and how everything's going, I kind of see the top two being fought for by Caramel and Banksy. But I do think Michael, as well as I keep wanting to call her Ginger Rogers, Ginger Johnson.
Which is a really affectionate way to say fire crotch, I am pretty sure.
Listen, Ginger Johnson and Ginger Minge. Put them together.
Same thing.
You got a show.
Legitimately, though, Ginger Johnson is the handsomest guy outside of drag.
Oh, it's kind of insane.
He is what a fucking 11 out of 10 knockout. That guy. And that sweater should be hideous. But, there's something about the confidence he carries himself with in the interviews that belies a knowledge of who he is that makes it feel a little bit more like, yeah, he wore that sweater on purpose, not he has bad fashion sense. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I've ruined everything. Everyone's quiet.
No, we all left.
No, I was joking. But so let's wrap up RuPaul's Drag Race UK Season 5, Episode 2. Anybody any last thoughts? And then Rule? No.
Alexis St. Pete's profile image, as I commented in the premiere, is weirdly at a different pixelation than everyone else's profile images, and that feels portentous.
Well, and the other thing, if you would just go back to her profile image for 1 second that I noticed.
This one?
One of the things that I think this image really says is she has so much to offer from color story, from outfit choice. It's just a bummer. I don't want to say goodbye to Alexis St. Pete, but she was eliminated. So, hopefully she gets a chance to shine somewhere later on down the line as the first Polish queen on the UK.
Vaya con queso.
The last thing I'll say is I had to pause to grab some food at a certain point while I was watching, and I definitely saw a rogue couple of feet in one scene that were not supposed to be there. Man, were they lucky when they all gathered around for that mini challenge that the 11th deleted queen was all the way on the end, and they could just crop each shot so that she was no longer in it.
Anybody who might be problematic, could you just stand on the end? If you've done anything you might regret or not want to admit in the court of law, could you just stand on the end?
Honestly, they're like triply likely this person, they didn't have a lot of plan for them, that they didn't have to edit around it. They weren't in the top these past two episodes. They lucked out.
Yep, very much so. That's my final word.
Also, just one more time, as a guy who grew up in Zayreville, the most Polish town in New Jersey, Alexis St. Pete, I really understand what you were trying to say about the positivity of like Polish culture and trying to bring it to your drag. But falling into the Eurovision trap of let me tell a story with my song and not make a banger single, we see how that goes. It's a rough sell, but Alexis St. Pete, you will be missed. And I'm trying to get a segue. I've got it. From a competition show about putting on your beat to a competition show about putting on your bricks. Okay. Lego Master this week was, I don't know.
Oh, wait, I got a transition.
Oh,
go.
From one show where your pussy is on fire to another episode where, no, build your pussy a house.
Legitimately, the funniest you've ever been in your entire life was yesterday. Literally, not that today wasn't funny, but like your commentary, anybody who saw Kevo put it in the chat earlier, Jonah's commentary on our bracketeering episode from yesterday, inspired by the Loki variants, was so beautiful.
Yeah, we were dying.
Choice. Very proud.
Lego Masters is tough for me because I watch it because I love Lego, But I guess I fell in love with Will Arnett as a host, and I love Amy and Jamie. The thing that is tough for me about Lego Masters this season more than any other season is the fact that I feel like the producers literally don't care about half the contestants each episode. The pacing on this editing, we barely see some people's final builds. We see some people's for 20 minutes and then nothing happens. The other thing that has me really concerned about this season is there are two groups of white women who are clearly the mother phase and the crone phase, and they're in the same episode of television, and that has to be deforming the timeline if they're the same women, right?
It's these two, right? It's Emily and Kelly, and then it's the grandmas.
Yes,
the grandmas
Karen and Amy.
who have departed the show.
I was gonna say apparently we no longer have to worry about this problem, but yeah, I mean it does really feel like it's weird because there's a bunch of stuff like this happening where you have two sets of contestants that make it feel redundant. You really do seem to focus on some people and not care about others, and then the same team won twice in a row, which I do think they won. Don't get me wrong. I do think those were the best builds of the episode, but it has now resulted in this thing where there's almost no way to fix it without something being sloppy, because they will have to overcompensate next episode. But there's still too many people, so it's going to end up that they care too much about somebody else, and we're still leaving people out. The grandpa and grandson are like a total footnote in this episode, even though ostensibly they did well. They got good critiques.
Well,
it's a lot. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, just to that end, I just want to bring up, if handsome Will Arnett's show is any indication, and that's of course Crime Scene Kitchen with Joel McHale. They know to say, hey, let's segment our cast half and half. If Lego Masters began with a couple of episodes of 6 and 6, I wouldn't feel so bowled over by the immensity of the cast in each episode.
Yup.
Also, we're making
it's pairs. It's 12 pairs, so it's 24 people. It's not just 12 contestants. It's 24 people.
Yep.
Jojo.
You might have to refresh.
What? So I'm going to speak for JoJo for a second and just say that one of the things that I think is so significant about this season of Lego Masters is that the prize is different. In previous seasons of there he is, sort of. But in previous seasons of Lego Masters, the prize was, big brick glory. That's, is BBG. But this season, the prize is having the opportunity to build your own set. And they don't know this yet, but Amy, Jamie, and I guess the producers that Puppet Will are, going to be picking people who are building dream sets, not just building winning sets. And that's going to transform our expectation, and it puts it a little bit more online with something like Project Runway than something like Drag Race. But Jonah, you had a thought before the internet, ruthlessly took it from you.
Yes, the Lego Masters were trying to silence me, and I will not be silenced.
No.
I had two problems I want to talk about. I do want to echo the large cast into, these people just have no screen time whatsoever, what at all. We talked a little bit about the grandfather and the grandson, but also, as you can see, that the married couple walking in front of the winning team, I don't specifically remember their names because it's a lot of people to remember their names. Yeah, they got nothing this episode.
He's just a male model. We should just stop pretending.
Yeah.
So this show, I think, cast a lot of people for this season, and I understand that not everybody's going to be imperative to the narrative. As some people will leave a little bit sooner, so you're gonna have to get things in as soon as you can. And some people are like, they're not gonna be eliminated for a little bit longer, so we can kind of wait a little bit. But it does feel a little unfair in a way to say this show is often marketed as this bonding experience that you have with your partner that you bring to, and then to not really even see yourselves of what's going on. They could have had this whole worrying storyline. They could have had an entire storyline that we know nothing about, that even their producers didn't get to showcase because it wasn't deemed important enough and they have to cut it.
People.
My second problem with this episode is I did not really like this challenge.
It was so fucking ephemeral.
One, the amount of kitten and cat noises they had to edit in throughout the entire episode was bizarre. It was
How many bad takes do you think are on the floor?
Also, it made this week really weird because RuPaul kept doing cat sounds during Drag Race.
Yeah, so everything's well, that's why we had the mother and the crone, pairings, and the streams were crossing. So RuPaul was making cat noises. There were cats here saying "Shantae, you stay." It was all very,
It's
weird.
been weird ever since RuPaul did the meowing when what's her name and what's her face went home on Australia.
Yeah.
And
Ivana Drake, who's dressed up as Catwoman.
And Rita Menu.
Who's also dressed up as Catwoman.
Yeah.
And they're hugging goodbye as Ivana Drake is about to be eliminated. And RuPaul just goes, meow.
And then ever since then, I've been on edge. Like something is not right. And then this episode of all times, she chooses to start doing it again, but at a 7 rather than at a 1. And now I'm just like fully... We're doing a cat thing. I feel like she's sending hidden messages to the Illuminati.
Mama.
It's so weird. And then, so I went from that to Lego Masters, and I was just like, the world is there's too much cat stuff happening.
Our pussies really were on fire this
On
episode.
fire. You're so right,
we
Jonah.
stepped
Really,
our
truly.
pussies up.
did.
Somebody else stepped theirs up, and I was just watching.
And hopefully they didn't step on them because
Yeah,
my
that
other
hurts.
problem with this entire challenge, the cats were there. At least with the dog challenge, they weren't there the entire time.
Yeah.
They I think
Yeah.
got like a picture reference of like what to do, but the cats were there to our knowledge the entire time, unless at random intervals throughout the day they gave them the cat for shots, which would just be weird.
Jonah, I actually am 100% certain that's what happened.
That's
Because
so bizarre.
the
to me.
animal wranglers, I know they were working with a
charity.
a charity, but you can't use animals like that on a set without animal wranglers there, and they have really strict parameters. So it actually, I bet this was a horrible episode to shoot for everybody, because I think they probably did really have to stop and pull them all out very regularly.
And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm trying to build this Lego. I'm trying to do the build you want me to, but now you want me to be
Now
holding
we're
the
stopping
cat.
for cat shots.
Also, you're telling me out of 22 people that are there, no one's allergic to cats?
Right. Yeah,
That
I
had
would have been
my
dead.
main thought. I would
have been
literally
dead.
be purple on the
Yep.
ground.
I have 3 people here with me who are, I'm assuming all 3 of you, I know these 2 are, but are you also allergic to cats, TK?
Hugely.
So it's like, did they tell them beforehand that like,
Right.
oh,
Like, you're getting a Benadryl
you're
shot.
getting a Benadryl and you're really tired, suck it up. We're
Yeah.
doing a cat episode. And then my other big problem with the actual challenge itself, so many of the descriptors for these, the descriptors they gave for these cats were obviously intentionally vague, but some of them got a lot more to work with, and it felt like really unbalanced in a way that I was like, no, this is not what you don't try to produce moments like this. This is not the kind of show you try to run. You try to mostly run a very fair show where everybody's always supposed to be on equal grounding. Your creativity is supposed to shine through. But a lot of these prompts gave them nothing to work with, and some of them gave them everything they had to work with.
Nature,
Like-
art,
Well,
creative.
some of them, it's like,
trees.
this cat likes to walk up steps. And so the person just like builds a thing with steps. And another one is like, this cat loves Rembrandt and Monet.
It's literally like, this cat likes to go out on the weekends with its friends. Literally nothing. Other one's like, this cat lives up in the woods in the cold winter in its cabin by itself, and it loves to snuggle up by the fireplace.
This cat likes mojitos, but not vodka drinks.
This cat reads romance novels on the weekends.
It was a very weird prompt. It did feel entirely produced, glaringly so. And it was one of those things where it's just like, part of me is like, but it doesn't matter because this is just Lego Masters. Like, nobody's gonna fight. Nobody is like, this is the only way I can pay for my mother's surgery, or
Yeah.
This is literally the show where Will goes up to the contestants and say, "No, try to say something reality TV," and they're
Right.
like, "Reality TV
Oh!
moment."
Yeah.
No, I didn't like
We
that.
did
Was
get
weird.
We did get a bit of excitement this week, something that I wanted to mention last week and forgot, but now here it is, and we're never sure when we will see the return. But the golden brick.
Golden brick.
Hello, golden brick. So this is exciting.
Oh, also, Will made a very funny joke when he's talking to the mother team in duo who's still with us, where one of them said, both my father and my brother are vets, and he's like, oh, where did they serve? And she was like, oh, what, you're trying to make a joke?
They were not prepared for that.
That was actually funny. I thought that was hysterical.
I thought it was amazing.
Bitter.
They were not
like,
prepared for that.
You're trying to make a joke? Girl, he's the host. Laugh at his jokes.
Yep.
It was wild the disdain some of them have for Will.
Not the least bit prepared.
No.
And I think that's part of the problem when your brain is focused on a competition, but what you're being asked to do is interact with a host. That's a very different thing. You guys are just here to talk about Lego Masters, but your job is to entertain me. And that's kind of the nature of Lego Masters. They're all here to just build, but they have to sort of achieve Will Arnett humor status in order to succeed.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's a great time to move on over to our last show. We're going to talk for 2 minutes about snake oil, which, let me the fuck tell you, David Spade has not been this funny since he had a portly fellow to tell him that he lived in a van down by the river.
Nice.
Snake oil is the best use of David Spade since Heather Locklear's sex pet. I think David Spade on snake oil is that's your next Melrose Place reference. I think David Spade on snake oil is just truly Adam Scott on Don't levels of excellent. Don't was produced, of course, by Ryan Reynolds, whereas Snake Oil is produced by Lego Masters Will Arnett. Now, this is, of course, not Will Arnett's first attempt at owning a game show. He personally masterminded the incredible Mike Myers revitalization of Gong Show, so you can sort of see where Snake Oil is Gong Show in some ways, but mixed with Shark Tank. I think this is the best game show I've laid my eyes on since Alex Trebek asked me to answer in the form of a question. How do you guys feel about Snake Oil?
So we watched the first episode together, and the first episode was a little rough because they're trying to explain the rules. It is a weirdly complex show that they explain in a complex way, and then you watch it and you're like, this is not that complex at all. I don't know why they're making it have to be like this. The first episode was a little or treading in a way that it's good, but the second episode was so amazing.
So much clearer. Yes.
You can tell. I don't know if that episode was also filmed in the same day or afterwards, but even in the second episode, you can see they figured out what works. They've already figured it out.
Codified language, much more clear segment division. Absolutely.
It was also, I was just very specifically baffled by one of the contestants of the second episode, Tony, who did not seem like a real person to me, where I really thought he was a plant.
I just thought he was a Corbin Fisher model. Literally nothing about him wasn't just a gay porn of a straight guy.
And then him with NBA player, what was it?
Dwight Howard.
Dwight Howard, who's 6'10" and is standing 3 feet above this man. It was
amazing. And when he was making fun of the size of the giant fork, being like, that's too big. That's your size fork, man.
That Dwight Howard was like, no man would ever use a fork 40% bigger than any other fork. When he's 40% bigger than any other man was just the height of just perfect.
The way that this show works is there are two segments. There's a head-to-head segment, and then there's a you won the first segment, so now you gotta try to double your pot or some BS second segment after. The first segment, there are 8 pairs of businesses. One of them being fake, the other being real, and there's always a pair of real and fake. Your job is to figure out which one of them is real, and you have to invest money into it. In the second episode, there's a guy whose business is I made a fork that's 30% bigger than regular forks because I wanted to shovel food faster in my mouth because I'm a man. And he was so misogynistic, but it was in a way of, oh, he's so committed to this misogyny. It's actually astounding.
But
We've
every time
swung
he
around
spoke,
the other side to
hold
being
on.
into it.
Every time he spoke, though, you heard the dicks fall out of his mouth, right?
Yes, but it was.
Oh my god, yeah.
Gayest voice I have heard since Nathan Lane swallowed Elton John's dick at my birthday party.
Well, and that part where
Your Sweet 16 was insane.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
Gina G performed Ooh Ah just a little bit, and the Spice Girls all did an incredible striptease.
And they all sang Witch
the
Doctor.
part where they ask him, is this a joke or is this a serious product? He says, absolutely, and it cuts off right there. And you can tell he probably said, absolutely not.
Yeah.
He
But,
probably
you know,
said
it's
it's
editing.
available for everybody. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Kevin, when you had that perspective at the time, I thought to myself, snake oil literally responds to our expectations, but the minute you apply any sort of higher logic, like Kevo's logic there, or TK, what was it about experience that ruined this episode for you?
I'd had one of the products.
Wild.
Yeah, Deer Slayer Whiskey is a basically local company to me, and that was the one that was when that came up. I was like, this is probably completely throwing me off bias wise, because I was like, you're all so stupid for not realizing that people use every part of the animal.
Absolutely.
That's twice this weekend between Anna Kendrick and now Deer Slayer Vodka, where Portland, Maine exists in this alternate pocket of America that I can't explain.
Weird celebrities from here. Liv Tyler, great experience with Liv Tyler. Judd Nelson.
Wait, Liv Tyler didn't call you a homophobic slur while you were doing a keg stand at a party?
No.
Stay tuned for that merch.
You make it then.
I will.
He will. He's an engineer.
Fully like I was this was a specific thing where I was really obsessed with Liv Tyler, and she and I had the same homeroom teacher, and the homeroom teacher was like, you cannot come sneak into my office when she is here visiting. That is weird. You're a weird kid. Don't do it.
Oh my god, speaking from experience. Oh,
and then I absolutely did it, and Liv Tyler was very cool about it. I left like immediately because I was like, this is really fucked up and terrible. But I was like, I can't not like gaze upon Liv Tyler once.
Did she
This is
mention
before
Mia?
the Lord of the Rings movies, guys. This is purely from Empire Records and the Aerosmith videos. Crazy and crying.
And being Mia's sister, don't forget, her sister was the highest paid plus size model for a decade.
Yeah, I don't think I knew that at the time, though. I was just really Empire Records. I just wanted to be chowing down on speed, too. And later I fulfilled that dream.
And hey, you know what? You live, you learn.
Thank you,
You
Alanis
live, Tyler,
Morissette.
and you learn. Okay. The actual best part of the entire Snake Oil has nothing to do with the products, has nothing to do with anybody else, is specifically the infomercials with the Spade Brigade.
They are wild. The infomercials are such an insane part of this.
And David Spade commenting on them live on air, saying that they make him laugh out loud. This guy again? Literally.
David Spade.
Tony, but,
David Spade is giving Joel McHale a run for his money in terms of that sort of course I'm here doing this. Like if I really, like if they were forcing me at gunpoint, you'd know, but I'm still going to give the most deadpan delivery and constantly make fun of everybody in this way that like, I don't know. He really could have gone in a stupid direction with this host character and been like a Joe Dirt type. And I think you do see in his eyes, there's a kind of wisdom that like, okay, we don't get these kind of opportunities often when we're these Rob Schneider, Adam Sandler did get the opportunities, but Rob Schneider, David Spade types that were
do drama. What the fuck?
They were so successful in the 90s and it just didn't last. And when you get an opportunity like this, I think he really did nail it in terms of finding a character that I actually, for somebody, when Nico was like Snake Oil with David Spade, I was like, fuck you, Nico, I'm not watching this.
Yeah, you said
And
you were happy for me, and
I was like, I'm
the
very
end
happy
of
for
the
you. I'm not doing this. And I really did not think it was going to be on the schedule when I looked at the script. And I watched it. I was pissed. I really was pissed. I didn't say anything, but I was pissed. But I was very charmed by the show. And it actually made me happy because up to a certain point, I liked David Spade. Tommy Boy was one of my favorite 90s comedies of all time.
Yeah.
I
Are you
really
or
thought...
are you not the angel of death?
Tell me like Wingy.
Fat guy in a little coat. Come on. Fat guy in a little coat. That's half my life. I really did love David Spade so much. And I felt like we lost him for a while. And this is the first time that I was like, this is that guy doing that like kind of success that I thought he would have, and like a character that just nails it. I truly hope the show goes somewhere because I think it's fun. You guys are fucking killing me with these game shows because every time I think you're wrong, it's not going to happen, I'm not going to like it. You guys watch too many game shows. I'm fucking sick of this, and I love every single one, and I don't know why I don't give into it more.
Well, because you're the Grinch.
Well, yeah, it's one. I am game show Grinch 100%.
I don't ask you to watch, Are You Smarter Than a Third Grader? I ask you to watch, Are You Smarter Than a, 113-year-old, NASA scientist who's also from an alternate universe?
I will watch that, yeah, for sure. Hosted by Quinta Bunsen for some reason.
Yeah.
I love that for us.
That's what we look for on this show. We don't just watch the biggest things that Disney is putting on, Hulu or Disney Plus. We also look for the things that are maybe challenging our expectations. Sure, Disney does own Fox, and Fox also owns Snake Oil. And I think, they probably, because they own Lego Masters, they probably own Will Arnett. But, at the end of the day, we're not just here to shill for the biggest things. We're also here to talk about the things that you might not have noticed. And it is such a pleasure to not just talk about Drag Race, but to talk about Drag Race UK. And not just to talk about, big game shows when we talk about things like Press Your Luck and $100,000 Pyramid, but to give things like Snake Oil a chance. It's just so exciting. I also want to say that as the one guy on the planet who thinks that Jason Alexander is a very handsome gentleman, he was so charming on $100,000 Pyramid this week, made some jokes about shrinkage, and he's doing this whole campaign with Verizon right now where he's talking about yada, 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 which is ridiculous. But, we're here to also point out the silly things, not just like $100,000 Pyramid, but like Snake Oil. So definitely give that a try. But until then, I think we're going to do a group sign off. No reason to, segment this. Jonah, it is always such a pleasure to have you on the show. Sign off. It is always such a pleasure to have you on the show. And you don't just bring a unique perspective. You're not just the Mabel to our Only Murders. You are our Jonah. And so much of what you say has defined the course of this series. If it had not been for you and TK, we certainly would not have watched Drag Race. And then what would we talk about most of our time? So, it is always so important to think about the team and all of our personalities and our perspectives. And I would love to know, what was your favorite show we talked about this episode, and where can everybody find you?
My favorite show that we talked about this episode has to be Only Murders. I thought it was a great send off to a great season, so I was really excited. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, this will be the last season. And to hear that, oh no, they got picked up for a season 4. Just because they end on a cliffhanger, unlike a different show that has 3 seasons and ended on a cliffhanger that was recently canceled, that it just makes me upset. Rip by Carly. But
Home economics.
Home economics too. If you want to see me lamenting about some lost shows that they've decided to cancel in 3 seasons that end on a cliffhanger, that's surprisingly a lot. You can find me over at Twitter, Instagram, and any other social at Peak Jonah.
I guess it's my turn. Oh no, it's Kevin's turn.
You can go first if you're ready.
No. Please.
I loved a lot of the things that we watched. I think I might agree that Only Murders might have been my favorite, if only because I loved this musical. It's something that we didn't talk as much about, but I think the writers did such a great job, and it really underlined what I feel like is the difference between loving and true Hollywood Broadway parody, and what we saw of Rogers the Musical in
Great
Hawkeye,
perspective.
where they were wearing like Target T-shirts basically, and it was just so silly compared to this, which is silly, but still took Broadway more seriously than Hawkeye, which was trying to make us believe it was a real Broadway show. No, that didn't work for me. So Only Murders has been such a treat, and on this bracketeering, I'm going to push you toward being the winner. And you can find me on the socials at Kevoreally. That's KEVOREALLY. Teak, where can the folks home find you, and what did you enjoy from this week?
I think it's Loki for me.
I get that.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved every single other one. I am blown away by how much I loved Ahsoka and how strange the reaction is, knowing so much of it is tied to Clone Wars and Rebels. But I actually feel like I don't need to watch them. I just do want to. And I'm just trying to figure out what's a cool way to do it. So I think that was an amazing thing there. Only Murders, you guys said it all. I think it's fantastic. The musical is so amazing. Pickwick Triplets, such a fun song. Look for the Light. Meryl Streep singing that ballad.
Creature of the Night.
Creature of the Night, so stupid and so good. I'm just so impressed. But Loki, I think for me, felt like a return to some values that have been a little distant at the MCU lately. It's another column that I want to see really reinforced. It's completely on the opposite side of the building than She-Hulk, but they're both doing some really serious work that I think is important to making the MCU something that I love for its broadness and not just when are we getting to the next Avengers movie.
Mm-hmm.
And this episode exemplified all the things that I love about that. It's just such a fun watch. It goes by so fast. So that's me. And if you want to talk about that more, you can find me at TK Elemental. Nico, what you got?
For me, it was Only Murders. I loved it so much. And if you want to find out more about me, you can check me out at Nico Action. That's NICOACTION. And you got 3 responsibilities. Number 1, stay safe. Number 2, be brave, evolve daily. And number 3, as always, be brave, evolve daily.
Evolve daily. Safe, brave, evolve daily.
End cap.
No, now you have to wait. I've said you can't rush into it like that. So now sit for a minute. Did you really say all 3?
Yeah.
By accident.
Right, repeatedly.
Okay, I'll say it again then. Gotta stay safe. Gotta be brave.
Gotta be pregnant, did you say?
You gotta be big.
You gotta be strong.
You gotta.
Why have we not ended this yet?
I can start playing "You Gotta Be" by Desiree if you guys need. My keyboard's right in front of me.
We'll do more musical numbers coming up, but until then, we love you.
Pew, pew.
Bye, guys.
Bye.